People like that intro is crazy. It is crazy, actually. I actually fell in love with that intro, but I definitely need to get my own custom one. You guys, listen, I've been trying to look for people who can make like the best YouTube intro videos, and there's not that many out there that are talented. I don't want anything generic. It has to be like unique. It has to be quality. Something that captures the essence of the channel. Um, Lady Nova said, it's making her sleepy. Well, thank you for not falling asleep. Lady Nova, I appreciate it. Um, man, welcome back to the channel, you guys. It's the Real Nathan Daly, and I'm your law enforcement translator. I'm here to provide insight on these difficult topics, current event issues, you guys. And tonight, we're going to talk about the Safety Act out of Illinois that was signed recently by Governor Pritzker. Can never pronounce his name. But before we get into that, let me shout out to you guys in the chat. Thank you for being here tonight. I just got back from out of town. I'm tired. I almost was gonna cancel the stream. I was like, nah, I gotta do it. I'm already late talking about the topic. When I was going out of town, when I left you guys, this stuff started to blow up in reference to the Safety Act. Right, you heard about all the things that were going on. People were like, oh, it's the end of the world for Illinois. It's going to be the purge, right? And all this hoopla going on. This is why I don't like politicians and politics, guys, because both sides have issues. Both sides have problems. Both sides are too busy fighting each other instead of fighting the battles of the people that they're supposed to be representing, right? So you got the conservatives or Republicans. They put out a lot of propaganda in reference to this bill, the Safety Act, saying that, they're going to just like release people who commit murder and blah, blah, blah. Back on the streets in Illinois, it's going to be the purge. That's what they said, right? And of course, you know how simple-minded a lot of people are in this country. They took it, ate it up, and ran with it, So as I'm on the plane heading out of here, you guys, I just shut my phone off and was like, I guess I'll talk about it when I get back and see if Illinois is still standing, right? This bill goes into effect January 2023. It's an interesting bill, though, you guys, just in general. So I wanted to do a stream talking about the bill, breaking it down, bringing some clarity, and then also giving my professional opinion about it. These things always interest me because too many people think they have the answer to the police solution. And until you start talking to people who actually do the job, and they're like, nah, that's not going to work. That's not going to have the intended impact that you think it's going to have. And so, there lies a purpose of, shout out to you. Thank you, Norris. There goes, and that's the purpose of this channel, right? How many police officers on YouTube that are going to be completely, I won't say honest, genuine, right? Give you a genuine perspective, an impartial perspective about real issues. You guys, nobody pays me but you guys, right? Like, and then YouTube ads. Outside of that, you guys, listen, I don't belong on either side. I'm just here to provide insight, right? No one owns me. I own myself. So when I'm talking about these issues, I don't really care who gets offended, right? Whether it's police or the citizens, right? The issue is, we have too many people who are biased, and they're intentionally biased because they have either a reputation, they have an agenda to maintain. I don't have any of those. I just don't. The purpose of this channel is to be a translator, right? Independent, but here to translate on both sides. Because there's a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding, whether intentional or unintentional, but it's there. And you need someone who can actually stand in the middle and say, hey, no, it's not accurate. Absolutely not accurate. So we're gonna dive into it, and I'm not gonna keep you guys long, but I do want to discuss it. I do want to talk about it. I think it's an important discussion to have because there's a good chance that this wave will absolutely, spread to other cities, other states. So before we get into that, as you guys know, every Wednesday, live show, every Wednesday, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And I'll do some random shows based on, things that are happening, current events, stuff that pop up. But Wednesdays are guaranteed show, you guys. So if you are not familiar, please, by all means, mark your calendars. And if you are not following me on these platforms, social media, especially Instagram, you guys, I can be reached very easily on there. Um, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter. Never on Twitter, but one day I will be on Twitter. That place is it's a cesspool of foolishness. So I try to stay off of there. I don't have the patience to argue with people like that. So every Wednesday, you guys, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Now, there are some people who want to, sometimes they kind of want to debate about things. I'm all for it. You can catch it on a Wednesday, right? So come up Wednesday if you want to. There's things that you want to discuss that you don't like. The last video I dropped, you guys, I dropped the premiere, the one with Tariq Nasheed. And, some people were salty about it. Bless their heart, right? So if you haven't seen that one, please go check it out. It was a very interesting stream. And listen, I had to get on the brother about what he said, right? So we got to be mindful about the things that we say, not to discredit maybe other things that he has done, I heard he's done a lot of great things, like I said before. But at the end of the day, there are certain things that he's, we're not qualified to talk about everything like we think we are, and we have to be mindful of the impact our words have. So, with that being said, though, you guys, this is a safety act we're going to be discussing tonight, and I'm going to take questions at the end. So, before we jump into that, thank you guys again for joining. When you come in, please hit the like button. We're going to be taking questions. I should have did a little survey to see if anybody was familiar with the Safety Act. I'm pretty sure you guys heard about it, but I'm gonna be honest with you. The Safety Act, it is a bill, but it's already pre-existing. They added something to it recently, which is the pretrial, right? The pretrial, basically, doing away with cash bonds, right? Bonds, and so. Why is this a big deal? It's a big deal because, for those who know, I don't know, for those who don't know, a cash bond, right? Basically, you get arrested, right? You go to jail, and in order to get out, you got to post a bond. Well, the bond acts as collateral, right? It's there to just basically say, give us this $1,000. Okay, this $1,000 for this particular charge. Let's say it's shoplifting or whatever. All right, $1,000. You pay that $1,000, the whole idea is that it's like a promissory note. Hey, I promise I'm gonna come to court, right? And since you put your money down as collateral, if you don't come to court, you lose that money, right? If you're found guilty, you lose that money. If you're found innocent, you get your money back, right? So the whole thing is collateral. What they are saying, we want to end the cash bond. We want to end it. We don't want to do it anymore. Why? Why do they not want to do it? What did they say their reasons were? Well, their reasons were they believe it's unfair. It's unfair to those who can't afford to bond themselves out of jail after committing said offense. The whole idea is surrounded by the idea of you're innocent till you're proven guilty. And what ends up happening is if you can't afford your bond, then you sit in jail, right? You got to sit there. And I get it. The problem is, though, sometimes I don't know when these politicians, and most of the time these are Democrats, right? They come up with these policies that are very lax, lenient. They want to reduce consequences and punishments and things of that nature, all from the eyes of equity, right? Saying that it's not fair. And I watched the press conference and I heard a lot of different speakers go up there and speak before the bill was signed. And the different speakers, of course, were Black. And then, of course, you have the Governor Pritzker. But the issue I have is that a lot of these ideas are surrounded by the idea of systemic issues within Black communities. It's surrounded by the ideas that Black people and people of color, is what they say, um, are disproportionately affected or impacted by these things, right? Now, I have an issue, especially with this word disproportionate. People use it all the time. It's probably one of the most disingenuous words you can actually use when trying to discuss or debate a particular topic. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really mean much of anything when it comes to actually arguing points. Oh, well, disproportionately, they're being impacted. That really doesn't mean much of anything, right? KQ says it's mainly for low-level offenses. No, that's not accurate. It's not accurate. We're going to talk about it. It's not mainly for low-level offenses. Honestly, it should be for low-level offenses, but it's not. It applies for all offenses. And I'm going to break down how they plan on doing this. And let me be completely honest with you about the bill itself. About the bill itself. The bill itself is a great idea. There's a lot of great things inside the bill. I actually like the bill itself. There's a lot of things in the bill. We're going to briefly go over the things in the bill. 90% of the bill I like. I think it's appropriate. I think it's necessary. And I think these things should have been done and implemented. I don't understand why it takes this long. But the only issue I have is the cash, is the ending the cash bail. It doesn't say all offenses. Well, this is the thing about the we'll get into it. We'll get into it. All offenses are subjected to no financial bail, right? Like all charges are subjected to it. So basically, again, the issue, the way they're looking at it is like this. They're looking at it from a standpoint of you don't have to. It's cool. We're gonna go over it, Socha. We're gonna go over it in detail. But here's their argument, right? Their argument is it's unfair that a person has to pay their way out. Okay, well, what if another person doesn't have the money and then now they are stuck, right? They're stuck. Basically, it's not fair, right? It's not fair. That's the problem with a lot of democratic policies rooted in fairness and not so much in logic. Now, I do agree that there should be, before we even get into this, there should be certain crimes against society, maybe, where you should have the options of not having to post a bond. I agree with that, right? For example, suspended license. Okay, it's an arrestable offense. So you go to jail. Should you have to bond to get out for a suspended license? Nah, like that's overkill. I think any type of criminal offense where you've committed a crime against someone, a person, or property, absolutely the bond. You should have a bond. You should pay a bond. Here's the issue I have with some of these Democrats and the way they use their logic in regards to addressing crime in communities and addressing the Black community specifically, because they will have you believe that Black people are not capable of actually making decisions that are in their best interest, right? So, but because they can't, then guess what? They then have to change the consequences because Black people can't make better decisions that are in their best interest. That's how it comes off to me. And let me explain to you why I say that. It's a three-part process, right? You have the mentality of a person that brings about the behavior of the person, and the behavior brings about a consequence. 3 stages to this thing. Unfortunately, you have some people who their response to fixing the problem is let's address the consequence. Let's change the consequence. Let's remove the consequence because it's disproportionately affecting Black people. It's disproportionately affecting. Well, then is the issue the consequence or is the issue the behavior? This is the issue. And this is why it gets convoluted when you get people who come and speak on these topics and they massage the feelings of people who want to hear all this slick talk. This is the problem. You want to address the consequence, but you don't want to address the behavior. Because if you address the behavior, you then have to address the mentality. If you address the mentality, then you have to then address the upbringing. And if you address the upbringing, that's the real root of the issue, right? No one wants to talk about the dysfunctional communities, the dysfunctional homes that are creating human beings that are coming out here and creating crime. But instead of that, they want to circumvent around all of those things and then focus on the consequence. And then say, okay, I think we need to. It seems like all the Black people are just more Black people getting arrested for shoplifting and theft and burglary. But so because it's more Black people getting arrested for it than white people, they're disproportionately being affected by the consequence. So you know what the answer is? Let's change the consequence and reduce it. You guys, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And this is why we can't fix the problems in our community, because we have political panderers, political activists, color justice warriors that like to pander on Black people. Pander, pander, pander. They call them race hustlers, all the above, right? These politicians are no different, you guys. They're no different. They won't tell you the truth. The truth is your behavior is the problem. You're disproportionately committing more crime. Therefore, you're disproportionately being held more accountable with the consequences disproportionately. Yeah, because you're doing it disproportionately. So we can have this argument all day. You're disproportionately committing more crimes than white people, right? Asians and Hispanics. Therefore, you're disproportionately being held accountable for said behavior. You guys, it's common sense. The criminal justice system is the door. The people are the key. You guys, you have to do something in order to get something. You're the key. The system's a door, and the police are the vehicle to drive you right on through once you commit a crime. Now, granted, some people are going to say, well, some people are, yeah, all right. People always like to have the 1% argument. You guys, we're talking about the majority. Talking about the majority. The problem with this whole cash bail, let's remove it all. The problem is it sounds good. In theory, it sounds great. In theory, you guys, but in practice, it's completely horrible. This will fail. This will absolutely fail. Is it going to be pandemonium? No. Will it be chaotic? Yes. Why? At the end of the day, what you're doing is incentivizing criminals to commit more crime. Why? There's no accountability. We already have an issue with criminals' recidivism rates. We already have issues with criminals going back into jail, committing multiple crimes again, even out on bail, out on bond. And now you're saying you're going to just take the bond away? No bond? For low-level offenses too. What's going to happen to police? You guys, they're going to pull back. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. The police are they're going to stop doing their job. Absolutely. Why? There's no point in risking your life arresting someone just so they can turn around and make it out the jail before you make it home. Having a bond is actually a deterrent. Absolutely a deterrent. Now, one could argue that, because I saw an article discussing that research suggests that it doesn't have an impact on recidivism rates. Okay, of course not. Why? Recidivism is a choice. You guys, it's a choice. It's a choice. Of course, you're not going to see the effects, how measurable it is as a deterrent. The problem is there's always that 1% that's going to get caught up in the system. The problem with this is that you have the Democrats looking at this from Illinois, the governor, he's looking at this from a feelings perspective. He's trying to save the 1%. You guys, the 99% is the problem. Matter of fact, let's give it 5%. You got 5% of the people who are committing crimes maybe only need to do it one time. And they're reformed. They're like, all right, this wasn't for me. I'm in jail. It costs this much money. I might lose my job. Then that's it. They're self-correcting. You have 5% that are self-correcting. They only need to hit it once, right? That's that, like your cousin, your brother, your sister, they're driving, speeding, they're going too fast, right? They get pulled over, find out their license is suspended. Then you go to jail. Now you're a hardworking person. You got to go to jail. Now you got to pay $1,000 to get out. Now you got to pay for your car, get out of impound. You got work in the morning. You're going to miss work if you can't bond down time. Hey, you've been late 3 times already. You might lose your job. See, this law about removing the cash bond is for those people, right? Citizens who are law-abiding but may have done something, got in trouble, and got arrested. See, the law is good. That right here is good for them. But you guys, for the career criminal, and this is the problem with the law, for the career criminal, you guys, this is a beautiful thing. This is absolutely a beautiful thing for the career criminal, the 95%. The 95%. Could you imagine you have a situation where you go home and you find out that someone actually, stole your identity, your credit card information, ran your stuff through the roof, $5,000 in expenses. Then I show up, I arrest them, and guess what? You're mad. You want your money back. You want them to be prosecuted. Okay, guess what? I put them in jail. An hour later, they're walking out. Guess what they say? Slap on the wrist. Guess what I'm doing? I'm heading back to do it again. Why? Where's the consequence? You have criminals, career criminals, who bond out of jail for serious offenses, felony offenses, and they're out and they still go out and commit more crime. But they don't like to talk about the people who can't bond out, the criminals who can't bond out because they don't have the money. They're there. They stay in jail till they go to court. They're off the streets. So what is the issue? The dilemma is this. They say it's unfair for people who can't afford to bond out. My thing is, I need to see the data on that. What's the percentage of the people who can't bond out? You can't pay 10%? What's the percentage? I need to see the numbers. Other people who can't bond out. More reasons why you don't need to do the crime. Now for lower level, oh man, Sochi be on it. Sochi says 34%. Oh well. Don't do the crime if you can't pay the fine. You guys, that's a deterrent. That's a deterrent. You know why a lot of people don't speed up and down the street? Because they don't want to pay the money. Some people do it anyways, and guess what? They end up having to pay the money. So at this point, the way Chicago's looking, there's no reason for you to even arrest anybody. You might as well give people a ticket and say, I hope you show up for court. So this system now, the Safety Act, is retarded. But before I even get into that, Someone else has tried this, something similar to this, right? Keisha Lance Bottoms, this was the previous mayor of Atlanta. She decriminalized theft and shoplifting and I believe marijuana as well. Why? She said black people, black juveniles are disproportionately being charged for these crimes. They're being impacted disproportionately. There goes that word again. Very disingenuous, a very dangerous word a lot of people use in order to try to make a point, an irrelevant point, but a point nonetheless, you guys. Disproportionately, black youth were being impacted and arrested disproportionately for shoplifting, for possession of marijuana. So what was her response? All right, let's decriminalize it. Let's not make it criminal. What? See, when you get your feelings involved in law, it never works out well. It never works out well. What did she do? Her feelings got involved. How so? Well, she was feeling for the criminal, the person who committed the crime, right? Her feelings. Oh, these young kids, they don't know any better, you guys. Yeah, they kicked in your door and held you at gunpoint. Yeah, we know they broke into your car. Yeah, we know they carjacked you, but they need guidance. So if we just put them all in jail, then what? Keisha, bless her heart, was operating through her feelings. Through her feelings. And it tore the city apart. Completely tore the city apart. You can't use your feelings when you're enforcing the law. You got to use the law and you got to use logic. What did she do? She decriminalized. What does that mean? Hey, you guys, we're no longer going to make arrests for these offenses anymore because we just seem to be arresting too many black kids. Too many black kids are being disproportionately arrested. Okay. And why are the black kids doing these crimes? No one wants to ask that question. We don't want to address it. I don't know what it is within the black community. Again, what do I call it? I call it accountophobia. The fear of being held accountable. We just want to avoid the fact that you're wrong. You're wrong. I don't know why. They're wrong. So because too many black kids are being arrested for shoplifting and possession of marijuana and committing crimes, your answer is to decriminalize the things that they're actually doing. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But she did it. And you guys, you know what the kids end up doing? Do you think the criminals are the young kids, right? Some people don't like the word criminals. Do you think the young kids who are committing these crimes or offenses, do you think they sat back and said, Keisha, thank you so much, Keisha, for decriminalizing this. You know what? Now that I look in the mirror, it was wrong that I broke into these cars and stole all this stuff. And it was also wrong that I've been shoplifting in these high-end stores at Lenox Mall. You know, and it's also wrong that I stuck this person up and took their belongings. I think I'm going to change my ways. You guys, unfortunately, it had the opposite effect. Thefts went through the roof. Shoplifting went through the roof. Smash and grabs went through the roof. Car break-ins went through the roof. Why? Because the criminals, the young kids, young adults, who just happen to be black in these circumstances, marijuana possession through the roof. You guys, they want to commit crime. It's what they want to do. No one's forcing them. This is what they want. So when you create a law to reduce the consequence and not hold them accountable, you're operating backwards. Intentionally, you're operating backwards. You care more about the 5%. The 5%, unfortunately, get caught up in the melee of the 95%. Shout out to you, Chicago Gorilla. Shout out to you, Double R. Shout out to you guys. The criminals commit more crime when you decriminalize something. Hey, we're not going to take these kids to jail anymore for shoplifting. You guys, and they were shoplifting and tearing these stores up in Atlanta. I used to arrest these guys, kids, all ages, because they never knew where the border of Atlanta and DeKalb County was. They don't know, right? They're just criminals. I stop them, arrest them. They're like, "Oh, why are you taking me to jail? This is not supposed to be. I can't get a ticket." I said, "Ticket?" I said, "Sir, this ain't Atlanta. This is not Atlanta." Oh man, I thought this was. I could have sworn this was still no, sir. We don't do that here. The criminals know where to commit the crimes at. You guys, one would argue that some people purposely put these laws in place in order to, right? There's always a bigger agenda. Governor Pritzker, what did he say? He said, hey, I got black people on board with this. They love this idea. The Black Caucus loves this idea. You guys, I'm sorry, but the Black Caucus is a joke. It's a joke. Anytime you got to name something black in front, it's a problem. Black News Network, suspect. You know, unfortunately, black people love symbolism, right? Black Entertainment Television is the worst channel for black people. Right? Blackity Black clothing line. It's like anytime you got to put black in front of it to sell to black people, more than likely black people don't own it. Right? So let's dive into, again, my issue with Governor Pritzker and others like him, and social justice warriors, Democrats, a lot of Democrats. What is the issue that I have? When you focus on the consequence, but you don't address the behavior, and you don't address the mentality creates the behavior brings about the consequence. You want to take away the consequence instead of discuss and address the behavior. And you want to hide it under the guise of systemic issues, and black people are being impacted disproportionately. That means absolutely nothing. It simply just means black people are doing it more, therefore getting held accountable more. Now, if you want to talk about issues within the criminal justice system, we talk about the disparities. What this bill should have been addressing is equitable punishment for everybody, right? Consistently across the board, white, black, Asian, Hispanic. Meaning if you get shoplifting, here's the fee, here's the time in jail. If you commit robbery, here's the fee, here's the time in prison. And it needs to be across the board, right? Address the sentencing disparities. That's what we need to talk about. But the fact that you're committing the crime and you just happen to be doing it more, black people do it more, or you're doing it disproportionately more than white people, okay, then we need to discuss the behavior. Not discuss the consequence or the punishment. We change the punishment because one group is doing it more. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And now what's going to happen, you guys, is the police are not going to do their job. And the criminals are going to be emboldened and empowered to do more. Why? Where's the punishment? I can commit crimes and don't have to pay no money up front. Oh, shit. Pandemonium. The crime within the black community is going to go through the roof. And then guess what? This is why this double entendre going on with this bill, and I'm gonna point it out, you guys. Illinois Democrat place. Listen, at the end of the day, people were really screaming to fund the police. In this bill, the Safety Act, they're pumping almost $200 million into the police department. The problem is they want to focus on the consequence, but they don't want to focus on the mentality. They don't want to focus on the environment. You guys, this is where the problem is. Their answer is hire more police. No, you don't need more police. You just need better police. Right? We need to help. We need to hold police accountable. Yes, absolutely. But the answer is not more police, you guys. It's a waste of money. So they got all these $200 million a year they plan on pumping into these communities that have gone underserved. Man, you guys, it's not more police. I would argue we need less police officers. That money needs to be put into social programs, therapy. If we want to talk about the issues within Black community, therapy, counseling, right? Broken homes, broken families, the dysfunction in a lot of these neighborhoods. That's where you put your money at. You put it into education, you guys. So I'm gonna break down what they talked about because first, let's go over the bill within itself. I'm gonna go over the entire bill, and then we're gonna talk specifically about this section about the cash bonds. And then then I'll take some questions. I'm curious to see what you guys think. Just in general. But there's a lot of things that can be happening with this, right? They want to increase the crime rate, push people out of Illinois, raise the property, what is that thing called again? When they move everybody out, then people buy it and raise the prices. But that thing, right? So another thing I used to see too, you guys, a lot of the judges in the criminal justice system are white. This is a fact, right? Gentrification. Thank you. Wes Henderson says soul bond. Yeah, we gonna get to the soul. We're gonna get to the soul bonds, and then we're gonna get to how they plan on working this situation with the no cash bond. No, people don't understand urban planning, and this seems like some strong urban planning to me. They're getting ready to raise the crime, get people out of there, and then they're going to, recycle these communities. They're going to push a lot of people out. So I mean, it's you could just see it, man. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. So let me bring up the Safety Act bill. Let's talk about that. And then let's remove a lot of the misinformation that these crazy Republicans put out. They're clowns too, you guys. They're all clowns. All the politicians are clowns. I'd say almost 80% of them. And I don't trust any politician. What I do trust is that you're voted in to do a job, and that the people ensure that they do it. Yeah, we're gonna do that survival live stream. I'm gonna do that probably. What's the month looking like? I'm probably gonna do it the first Wednesday of October. It'll give me some time to plan. Thank you for reminding me, though. That's a big one, you guys. I will be promoting that. Things that you need to have in your home, things you need to have that you need to start ordering, and things like that over time to keep your home in order, and things that you need to have in the event of emergency. It's something that's been weighing on my spirit real heavy lately. I got my family on board, but I definitely want to make sure I share it with you guys. I look at you guys like family. So it's definitely important that we have that conversation. I'll share with you what I have. I have a little place that I'm going to do it. I'm probably going to do the live stream different. I'm going to do it as a live stream, I think. I just got to figure out how I'm going to set it up to make sure I can get a good connection. I'll show you the things that I have, so forth and so on. So I might be able to do it here, but we'll see. But thank you for reminding me about that. Let me just make a note too. And then we'll go into this. Yeah, we're gonna go into that survival stuff. I might try to get after I do the demonstration of the stuff. I'll try to get Michi X to come by because she has another portion of it too that she does. She did on her own channel, and which was really dope. So, um, she's from the old 20. I got you. 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 So let's dive into what is the Safety Act, because it's a lot of different things. I agree with 90% of it. I'm gonna talk to you about the 10% I don't agree with, and then I'm gonna tell you why, what the issues are, and then we're gonna take questions, you guys. And of course, you know how we do. So House Bill 365. Look, you gotta always look at the numbers, you guys. Always gotta look at the numbers. House Bill 365, 365-3, right? Let's see. What is it talking about? What is it talking about? Let's dive into it. First things first, you guys, police accountability. This is what I like, right? Police accountability. It requires reporting on death in police custodies. Believe it or not, a lot of agencies don't report this. A lot of agencies don't report a lot of things that they should be reporting. And even when you ask them, they don't want to report it. Again, we got to get the police problem under control, because you have some police departments that are just like rogue nations. They do what they want to do, which is an issue. Let's see. Expand police training, which is obvious, on use of force and crisis intervention. I mean, okay, cool. What else? Require statewide standards and services for officers to receive regular mental health screening and assistance while ensuring that counseling and screenings remain confidential. That sounds good in theory. I would like to see how they're going to implement that in practice. But I mean, of course, that's good. Statewide standards, that's something they should have already had, right? This is the issue I have with a lot of everybody's so slow to get this together. Requires police departments to participate in the FBI use of force database. This is what I was talking about earlier, where you have some departments that don't participate. This is a fact. So for them to add that in here is absolutely necessary. It's a shame that the governor would have to make this type of this requirement, but every single state in this country should be mandatory to do it. Prohibits chokeholds. I don't agree with this. I like chokeholds. I think chokeholds are necessary. I think you don't take away the tools, you take away the officer. If the officer is not mature or more responsible enough to handle said tools, then they don't need to do the job. And so that's my take on it, just in general. But so when you say prohibit chokeholds, I don't think that's a good move. You guys, you've heard me tell you plenty of stories about me utilizing chokeholds, and it was because the alternative would have been to shoot the person. And so my thing is, chokeholds need to be there. You just need officers trained better. Imposes upon police duty to intervene. Okay, so this is another one that's going into the bill about intervening. That's you need to be in there. It needs to be in there. We want officers to intervene when they see another officer doing something that's inappropriate or illegal, or they're using excessive force. I think that's appropriate. Definitely need whistleblower protections. This is another thing that I even had on my own reform policies, is that officers who do come out and speak about issues, they need to be protected. And so I think that's absolutely necessary. Let's see. Extends all restrictions of use of force that apply to law enforcement officers to bounty hunters as well. Cool. I'm for it. Bans the use of certain military equipment. Yeah, I've seen this. That's fine. I mean, again, the tools are not the problem. The problem is the person using them. I would more so, instead of take away tools, I would take away the person who's not responsible enough to use it. So I'm not for or against that. Requires the maintenance of police misconduct records, and requires the use of special prosecutors and officer involved deaths. Now, I agree with this. I agree with this 100%. Should there be special prosecutors? Yes. Why? For transparency. for transparency. Unfortunately, and I say this all the time, Vic says military equipment like what? I think they're talking about like the tanks, maybe the sound devices. Here in Georgia, we have radio waves that they can shoot out, help disperse crowds. Unfortunately, you have some guys, some officers, they abuse their power, they abuse the tools that they have. And a lot of citizens don't like the use or don't like the look, the optics of police and military gear and things of that nature. And I get it, right? I get it 100%. I get it 100%. I think in law enforcement, gotten a little way too comfortable adopting the military persona. And I think that level of equipment should be approved on a higher level, and it needs to make sense. My personal opinion. Require maintenance of police misconduct records, requires use of special prosecutors. I think you absolutely need a misconduct database. Cool, I'm all for it. And a special prosecutor, I'm all for it. That helps with transparency. Misconduct database is only good as the departments that are enforcing it. Meaning, if you have a misconduct database, but the departments don't really care, then it doesn't really do any justice. I think it needs to be if an officer has committed offense, violated certain policies, or convicted of a particular crime, especially felony, then they should not be allowed to actually police anywhere, right? Like you should anywhere, nationwide. That should be a nationwide thing. You cannot police anywhere if you violated XYZ, certain type of policies, certain behaviors, or certain crimes. If you've been convicted, you should not be rehireable or be able to maintain a certification. Removes police discipline from the collective bargaining process. This right here specifically has something to do with unions. And so I don't know what that means in all detail, but that specifically is talking about unions. This is what I do like though, and I've said this before, I'm a firm believer on this. Requires the use of body cameras statewide by 2025. It should say 2024. Summer 2023. Illinois, you got departments in Illinois that don't have body cameras? Nah. Summer 2023, y'all. It's not that far. I wouldn't give them that. That's too much time. No excuse for that. Every police department in this nation should have body cam. You shouldn't be allowed to police without a body cam at this stage in the game. It's just gotten so bad. And not even so much always on the officers, but just also on the idea that citizens are lying a lot on police officers. I would not want to police. Before I got the body cam, I didn't want it. Then when I got it, I loved it. I loved it. Why? Because you catch people in lies all the time. You go to court, you play the video, and nothing further, Your Honor. Yeah, damn right, nothing further. Your client's an imbecile. And it's all on camera for everybody to see. I don't have to explain it, right? You see everything, and it holds police accountable. And, the way I feel, if you cut the body camera off in the middle of a mission, you cut the body camera off, you tamper with it, that should be a felony all day. Tampering with evidence, jail, fired. I don't know what happened. It just cut off. All right. Turn your badge in. Turn your badge in. Unfortunately, society has changed. The trust is broken and the police broke it. If you broke the trust, it's your responsibility to repair it. That's a fact, right? So now, obviously, that's not excusing, stupidity on citizens, not at all. But let's just keep it real. If the trust has been broken by law enforcement, the lies, the egos, the deception, oh well, we got to fix it. That's on us to fix. That's on us to fix. It is what it is. Let me dive into these super chats real quick. Bob 23456. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate it, you guys. Thank you so much for the love and support. You know, it goes a long way. It means a lot. It absolutely means a lot to me every time you guys donate to the stream. It just shows more and more that you see value in what I'm doing. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. My Lois Lane in the $20 super chat. She's also a member of the channel. Thank you so much, my dear. I really appreciate it. You guys, here's the unique thing about it. 2025. You know, the governor's like, we're giving 200 million to the police. No, you need to fund these body cameras for these police officers that can't afford them. There should be no excuse at this point. Absolutely. All this stuff that's going on, I would be afraid to run a police department without body cameras to protect the officers, right? To protect the officers. And if the officer's caught doing something wrong, sorry, I gotta, right? I gotta hold you accountable. There's no way around it. But you absolutely, there's no way to do this job anymore without the body camera. Absolutely not. You know, so much, it's just so much lies that go on just through the media alone, and amongst the citizens, over exaggerating things. Oh, right. You know, the last couple of videos we did, we were talking about how people exaggerate situations, or you got a citizen that's recording an incident, but you get the last 5 minutes of a 30-minute incident. And then when you see the full body camera, you're like, oh, nah, he deserved it, or she deserved it. Or that's not racist, right? The officer was doing his job. So it's like you see the bigger picture. I couldn't. There should be no police department should be allowed to police the citizens without body cameras. Period. So I love that. Shout out to you, Miss Lane. Thank you so much. Bob, again, the $5 super chat, he says, Nathan, whistleblower protection is giving a woke cop a bazooka. Facts. I think what needs to happen, though, is there needs to be a outside source, a source that's not the state government. I would say a citizen review organization, like a citizen organization where police can actually send their concerns to. And that way it ensures that it's separate from the governing, the state body. I believe there should be citizen review boards for every state, and they should have subpoena powers over records and police officers. Power has to be checked by a greater power. You need check and balances. And there's not enough in law enforcement, which is why things have gotten so out of control, right? Sounds like you need some tissue and some Hall. Shout out to you, daughter, y'all. My allergies have been acting up. I actually took some Benadryl not too long ago. So I definitely won't be up on here long. I slept nod my head, you know, things like that. You'll know what it is. Yeah, my allergies are acting up. I don't know why, actually. And so, but yeah, you picked up, I sound all nasalated probably. But shout out to you, my dear. Thank you so much, daughter of y'all. I appreciate it. I should probably make like some warm tea or something. You know, I was out in different elements, and I come back, and here we go. Removes the requirement for sworn affidavits for police misconduct complaints. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Bob says, Nathan, you're giving people who are irresponsible with power too much power. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean, Bob? Because I honestly, I want to get rid of that, right? Like they need a more balance of power. Yeah, I do need to take some Claritin because the Benadryl had you knocked out. It's children's Benadryl too. Andrea Robinson, thank you so much. Said, what happened to internal affairs? It's internal. That's what happened. What happened with internal affairs, unfortunately, is internal affairs is internal within the police department. And what ends up happening is a lot of people don't trust internal affairs. Every police department doesn't maintain the same level of integrity as other police departments. Unfortunately, there are some police departments that lack integrity. And there are a lot of other departments that have more integrity than some others, right? And so because of that, a lot of citizens don't feel confident that police can discipline and police themselves. The police department itself can discipline themselves. So, which is why earlier in this, it says, what does it say? Oh, yeah. Requires the maintenance of police misconduct records and requires the use of special prosecutors and officer involved deaths. So, it's basically trying to separate, because even if an officer is involved in a shooting, the shooting I was involved in, it's another agency that has to come and investigate it to ensure you're doing like you're being transparent. So the GBI got involved in my incident, and so the GBI is like, think of them like the FBI of the state, right? They're independent of a lot of the municipalities that are in Georgia, and a lot of states have their own version of that, where it's a state-ran investigative group, and they're independent, and it helps with the transparency. Internal affairs should be more so governing violations of policy and criminal acts, but if it's something that's egregious, definitely an outside agency should I would say consult with the investigation to ensure that everybody's being held accountable properly. I think internal affairs probably should collaborate with a citizens review board. So now you have oversight. You have a citizen review board or members of the community that are part of internal affairs who are seeing the same evidence that they are seeing. Hold on. You talking about Officer Johnny did what? And you're trying to give him suspension with pay? Like, no, he should be fired for that, right? Like, that's against, you get what I'm saying? So now you can't protect them. So that's the problem with internal affairs. At the same time, the internal affairs at my department, they're holding us accountable. But the problem is, like anything, I tell people, the police department of today is not the police department of tomorrow, right? Things change. People, you might have a police department that for the last 10 years was really great. And then the chief or a couple top leaders, they end up retiring. And then guess what? The culture starts to change as you change leadership. And because of that, there needs to be an oversight to ensure that regardless of who changes leaderships, there's a consistency and an integrity that does not change. Leadership should not change in integrity or consistency, if that makes sense. But what ends up happening a lot of times is that when you start changing, when people leave, they retire, or people get fired, things like that. You see policies start to change, and things start to get a little funny, right? I always use the perfect example. Okay, how was this country when we had Obama versus Bush, then Trump versus Biden? You change the head, everything else on the bottom follows as well. So that's a great question. Shout out to the big homie Dre, you guys. Also remember the channel. He says, it is not the job of internal affairs to discipline officers. Yes, that's very true. They can only make recommendations. They only investigate policy violations and send criminal investigations to the DA's office. All right, shout out to Dre for the clarity. So Dre is correct, you guys. And so a lot of times what people are looking at is, okay, well, they're investigating their own wrongdoing. So if they have a friend or they know somebody who's in internal affairs, are they going to hold them accountable appropriately? And I think that's where the issue is. So, not saying that they don't do their job with integrity. I am saying that there are some that do not. And because there's room for that failure, then there needs to be an oversight. There needs to be an oversight there to ensure that people are maintaining their roles and the integrity of their roles. And it is what it is. I think, unfortunately, the profession has gotten away of playing by themselves without any oversight. And I think that's what we see today. We see a lot of over empowered law enforcement agencies operating with impunity. And, there lies the issue. So shout out to you, Dre. Shout out to you for that clarity. Matt, see, that's funny. All right, so let me jump back into this. So they have a section on this in this law or this bill, and it's aimed towards detainee prisoners and citizens' rights, right? Citizens' rights. So I'm gonna read through these quickly because nobody really cares about these too much. As new detainee rights when a police custody, including the right to make 3 free phone calls at the station before questioning, the ability to retrieve phone numbers contained in their cell phone contact list. I guess I never used to. Well, no, I never had an issue. The only time I have an issue with letting people use their cell phone is depending on the type of crime they committed. But for the most part, I never had an issue for that. Soji says she keeps. You care? Don't worry. I'm gonna go through it. So let me go through all of it from the top. This is detainee prisoners and citizens' rights. This is what the bill covers in reference to that. Increases services and programming for pregnant prisoners and requires medical treatment of prisoners and detainees without unreasonable delay. This should already be something that's in effect. It's sad that this has to even be in the bill. Just goes to show you again that there have been a lot of issues in regarding this, or they probably wouldn't have put that in here. So it makes you wonder, how are prisoners being treated? How are women who are pregnant and are prisoners being treated to where they had to actually add this, right? So these are detainee rights, making sure that people have, they can get access to their phone. A lot of times officers, we don't let them get access to the phone. A lot of times I don't, especially depending on the type of cases that I'm working. I won't let them back into their phone after they've been placed under arrest. So yeah, when we get to the jail, we let them take phone numbers out so that they can make phone calls because they can't have their phone with them, right? It's taken in with their property. Requires, let me see, conspicuous notice of these rights in police stations and booking rooms. Requires that the telephone number to the public defender or appointed attorney's office must be on display. And you know what this tells me? It tells me that the Chicago, a lot of probably some of them Illinois police officers have been doing these inmates wrong, right? Like, so if you get arrested, they probably are treating you like trash, right? They're not giving you information. They're holding you, losing your paperwork, right? These, just reading this lets me know that they're definitely abusing their power, right? It's obvious. When you have to put on here, this bill is saying that you have to post and make it readily visible for detainees, people who've been arrested in the police station, booking station. You got to post and make visible information for a public defender. That goes to tell me that they're not giving them information. So it sounds like they've been off the chain, honestly, because this to me is standard. This is standard. This is what you're supposed to do. And so the fact that this is in the bill is a problem. Prohibits people with less than 4 months on their sentence from being in prison and allows them to be diverted to electronic monitoring or another DLC facility or program. I don't know. Ends prison gerrymandering, the practice under current law of counting prisoners towards jurisdiction census count rather than their permanent address. I wonder what the benefit of that is. I'd have to look into that a little bit more, but basically what it looks like is I guess a person in jail, the jail is in a particular area. They're using the jail inmates as a part of the population for that particular area. So they're saying that needs to change. So whatever your address is, even though you're at the jail, you're not being represented, and you're not being represented in the census in that area. So I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you on this one. I agree with you on this one, Sochi. I think that's in so many ways they've been probably disrespecting and treating people like they're less than human, and so um, make changes to streamline the crime victims compensation process. I agree with that. That process takes forever. For those who are not familiar with that, if you are a victim and you've been a victim of a crime and maybe you've received some type of loss damages, damage to property, they're saying that needs to be streamlined. So that means that you get compensated, financially compensated for what you lost or whatever. They have a process in the courts. Promotes the use of co-responder models, enhances data collection on mental health crisis response. That's always a good idea. They need to have a better response system when it comes to mental health, dealing with mental health crises. Codifies that the use of force by police as a punishment or retaliation is prohibited. Codifies that the use of force by police as a punishment or retaliation is prohibited. That's interesting. Basically, as we should know, that using force on someone because you're mad or a form of retaliation, that should be criminal, because that's not how use of force by police. So listen, they put some interesting things in here. I don't disagree with them. Lastly, this says creates new requirements in the event police execute a no-knock warrant, including that one, each participating member is assigned a body-worn camera. Whoo! Shout out to Breonna Taylor, right? And is following policies and procedures. Step 2, steps are taken in planning to search to ensure accuracy and plan for children or vulnerable people on site. Why is this important? There have been executions of search warrants where the investigator or the police did not do a thorough job identifying whether or not there were some at-risk people inside the home. Who? Children, right? Children. There are certain times, if they know there are going to be, you got kids, children there, they're not going to let you execute some of these search warrants like that. It's too dangerous. And so, and then and some people execute search warrants at the wrong address. That's happened. It's happened before. If an officer becomes aware the search warrant was executed at an address, unit, or apartment different from the location listed on the search warrant, that member will immediately notify a supervisor, who will ensure an internal investigation ensues. These requirements are based on Chicago Police Department reforms. So this is great, right? You guys, these are great. I think this should be nationwide requirements right here. So these are good. Military equipment. Shout out to someone in the chat was asking about the military thing earlier. Let's talk about, this is what it's discussing in regarding the military equipment. So let's talk about it. Let me tell you my thoughts on it. Let me see. Military equipment bans the purchase and use of certain military equipment by law enforcement. Let's talk about it. Tracked armored vehicles, weaponized aircrafts, vessels, or vehicles. I don't know. Do we have those? Damn. Firearms and ammunition of 50 caliber or higher. I don't think any law enforcement agency needs to have a 50 caliber or higher weapon. Grenade launchers and bayonets. They don't need to have any of that stuff anyways. But law enforcement agencies must also publish notice of any request for property from a military equipment surplus program. God, dog. So there you have it. Interesting. So let's go down to the court reforms, and this is where the most recent part of this bill has gotten a lot of attention. with the HB 3653. I say 365. The fact that 365 is in there, you guys, I'm a little conspiracy theorist. So the fact that 365 is in there, that I'm like, 365, huh? So, anyways, also, and then 3 years from now is 3 years from now will be 2025. For those who know about 2025, all right. So what does it say? Also makes a number of changes that specifically affect how people interact with the courts in ways that aim to interrupt the cycles of recidivism and incarceration in which many Illinois find themselves. Sims wrote must reform. So they're saying that the purpose of this part of the bill, court reform, is to address recidivism now and incarceration. Well, yeah, they got modern day muskets, and they said muskets and cannons. What is the oh damn, I didn't know that. They got all them helicopters. They're not catching none of these criminals though. Abolish monetary bail, right? This is what it's all about here. That, this is what has brought a lot of attention into this entire bill within itself, the monetary bail. Ends practice of suspending driver's license for failure to pay. Okay, I can rock with that. Aligns the eligibility for the mental health court or veteran service members court with other specialty courts, I guess. I don't know what that'll do, but I like it. If they like it, I love it. Modernizes earned sentence credits and shortens mandatory supervised release times for certain offenses. Okay. Clarifies the felony murder rule. Modernizes the 3-strike rule. I don't know what they mean by that, but I'm assuming they're making changes to that. Allows the courts to deviate from mandatory minimums and implement alternative sentencing, I guess. But let's talk about what they're doing that they did not tell you about. They said that the purpose of this bill, right? Let me pause this for a second. They said the purpose of this bill is to they're talking about the crime and the issues in the communities. It's to address the poverty, the disinvestment, the lack of access to health care, the employment, education, human services, and saying that these are the root causes of issues within these communities. What they are doing, right? They put $500 million on the fiscal budget for violent prevention, youth employment programs, diversions, and this purpose is to support vulnerable communities. Is what they're saying. Vulnerable communities. They plan on adding new police officers. They plan on adding for policing. They're putting up, I think, $200 million in police budget. New forensic kits for investigation, which they absolutely need because a lot of states and cities have backlogs on forensic kits for like rape kits and things like that. And then, of course, we're doing the video camera thing. Shout out to Freedom. Another member of the channel says, good evening, Nathan and friends, dropping by to show love. Early morning for me tomorrow. Good night, everyone. Yes, good night. Good night to you. Thank you for hanging with us. Normally we do these late streams. I promise we're not going to be late tonight. But I do want to cover, I think this is so important. So by all means, make sure you catch the rest of this when you jump back tomorrow. So $250 million over the next 3 years. It's going to what they call the smart on crime approach. The smart on crime approach. $250 million for over the course of 3 years. What is it going into? Training, body cam, revamping the use of force policy, and a decertification process. I will say I like the decertification process. I want to just touch on that real quick Basically, if you violate certain policies as an officer, or you commit certain crimes and you're convicted, found guilty, or whatever in reference to what you're being charged on, the decertification process. This is statewide, meaning that if you fall in violation of the policy or violation of a crime, they will absolutely decertify you, and you cannot go to another police department in the state of Illinois. I think that that's genius. I think it's genius. Um, I think it's absolute genius. So again, thank you so much, Freedom, for the super chat, $20 super chat. Thank you, thank you so much. And lastly, let me go into this, how they're going to use this bail, this issue with bail. I think that's kind of the meat and potatoes of this thing. But I wanted to give you guys an overview of what else was in this actual package, because I think it's actually really legit, and it has a lot of key things that I think are actually really helpful. But then again, that 10% is going to be in reference to the bail reform, and I'm going to talk specifically as to why I don't like it. I touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but let's finish this last piece up. Modernize. Oh, well, we can. Let me see. So, police licensure. All law enforcement officers could lose certification if they are convicted of or found guilty of a felony offense or some misdemeanors under current state law, according to Sims. HB 3653 expands the list of misdemeanors which prohibit a person from becoming a law enforcement officer or result in their decertification. I'm all for it. I'm all for police accountability, guys. And again, what this does is it expands the state, allows the state to remove and decertify officers for more crimes or more violations than they were able before. And they give you a list: criminal sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, prostitution, pimping. I mean, they got a list of crimes here. This should all be common sense anyways. I think any crime that an officer violates, well, misdemeanors, definitely any felonies, it should be, you should be up out of here. So look at this. I like this right here. Tampering with a dash camera or body-worn camera, or directing another for the purpose of concealing, destroying, or altering potential evidence. So the following actions could result in officers' decertification at a court's discretion. Yeah. So this is what they're saying. These are also following actions: committing an act which would constitute an automatic decertification if you were prosecuted as a felony or misdemeanor. There you have it. I like it, you guys. I think this is good, right? This is good that they're adding these in here. Using excessive force in violation of state and federal law. Okay, we're clear on that. Failing to intervene to prevent harm occurring, including the not knowingly and willingly refusing to render aid when it is reasonable to administer aid and aid is required. Okay, I get that. I'm all for that. Tampering with dash cam, body worn camera. We went over that. You'll be decertified for that. Committing perjury, making false statement, knowing tampering with or fabricating evidence. You'll be fired for that and decertified. I think that's on point. Engaging in unprofessional, unethical, deceptive, deleterious conduct. Deleterious. I've never heard that word before. Or practices harmful to the public, including departure from, failure to conform to minimum standards, blah, 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 blah. Now, I like it. I think this is good. I think all these are good. So this is good, you guys. This is the bill. This should be more so called a criminal justice accountability bill. Which part are you talking about, Sochi? So I think this is good. I don't see anything wrong with these here. Again, Now, let's talk about the cash, right? The cash, the issues with the cash bond, the 10% of this that I do not like. Let me see. Abolishing monetary bail. Abolishing monetary bail. Basically, so what is it? People are saying there's all type of crimes, felony crimes, misdemeanors. Here's what it's about. There is a risk assessment tool that the courts are going to use to determine whether or not a person should be held without bond. I would say with bond, or is it without bond? Whether or not a person should be held and should not be allowed to bond out. So what are they doing? What's their answer to this? They are basically saying that the state is going to have to prove that the citizen or the offender is a severe risk to someone or the public. If you cannot prove that they are a risk to society or menace to society, guess what? They're out of here, right? They don't have to pay to get out. So now there's a risk assessment tool that they're using. So technically, all criminal offenses are on the table to be able to walk out of jail if you're arrested. This is the problem. This is the 10%. The bill's looking real good until we get to the money, until we start talking about the money. They're saying that they want a more impartial way to determine a risk assessment to determine whether or not a person should be released or not. Now, there's a twofold issue with this. People are going to scream and say it's racist when they start seeing people not being able to get bonded out, right? I agree that there are some charges that should not require you to pay cash to get out. I get that. I believe 80% of the criminal offenses, you should bond. You should be forced to pay and bond out of court and bond out of jail. What they are saying now is there has to be a risk assessment. And this takes place January 1st, 2023. That if I commit burglary, but you can't prove to me that I'm a danger to society or I'm a danger to someone else, if you can't prove it, guess what? I'm walking out of jail. If I assault somebody and you can't prove that I'm more of a danger to them or a danger to society, guess what? I'm walking out of jail, you guys. I'm walking out and I don't have to pay. So what is this tool? A pretrial risk assessment tool provides the court with an objective, research-based measurement of pretrial failure for defendants released from custody during pretrial phase of their case. So a validated tool can help judges make risk-based decisions on detention and release, thereby reducing potential bias and subjectivity about who should be detained pre-trial. My thing is, every charge, every offense has a monetary value to it. So I don't understand when they talk about potential bias. Shoplifting over a certain amount, it's $1,000, right? Felony, it's $1,000. Suspended license, like $500. So there's already every city, municipality might be different, but every state prices are different. But the reality is there's a fee associated with every offense, every violation. Where's the bias in that? Where's the bias in that? So that is the whole idea with the the tool, the risk assessment tool. And I wrote down the elements that they're looking for in this tool, the things that they're going to be considering. Now, it's very interesting, but this is something that I want you guys to know. I think it's on point, but let me see. Well, so, and this is the whole purpose of the tool, right? And this is what they're saying. It encourages the Illinois Supreme Court to adopt a statewide risk assessment. Also encourages the Supreme Court to adopt a risk assessment tool which does not discriminate on the basis of race, gender, education level, or socioeconomic status. Now, here's the problem. I think, yeah, you absolutely need the courts to do that, right? To not make judgments based on those things: socioeconomic status, gender, race, right? Ethnicity. I get it. But there are so many other topics that they do show disparities in that they're not even addressing in this bill. Sentencing is one of them. And I think that's very interesting that we're talking about, we're talking about bail reform, but really bail, posting money is really just a situation of a socioeconomic thing, not necessarily a race thing, right? Not necessarily a gender thing. It's a socioeconomic thing. Because if you have someone who's wealthy, got money, and they commit a crime, okay, they got the money to spend to get out. Someone who may not have the money, they're stuck in jail. But guess what? You're innocent until proven guilty. So as long as you didn't do the crime, well, we know that's not how it works, but you get what I'm saying. Here are the categories that they're actually building this assessment tool off of. And I guess let me just read it out to you guys. They're basing it off of one, current violent offense. So they're looking at that. What is the offense that you committed? They're looking at the current offense. They're looking at the pending charge at time of offense. So if you have any pending charges when you committed said offense, they're going to take that in consideration when they're going to decide whether or not you get to avoid, posting a bond. Prior misdemeanor conviction, prior felony convictions. They're looking at all this. So now they're going to examine you in your entirety. They're going to say, hey, have you been arrested? Which I agree, right? I agree. Those things should be determining factors on, one, how much your bail should be, or whether or not you don't get bail at all. Because say you don't have any, this is your first offense, right? And it's a misdemeanor offense. Yeah, should you get a get out of jail free card? Absolutely. Depending on the crime, I think so. Do you have prior failure to appear? Why is that important? Because if we're gonna not charge you, again, what did I say? Your bond is collateral. So if you're not going to be putting down collateral, then I need to know whether or not I can trust that you're going to come to court on time, or you're going to come to court at all. But if you have a history of failing to appear to court, then I got to keep you in jail to ensure that you answer to these charges. So that's another thing they're going to look at. So prior failure to appear pretrial older than 2 years, prior sentence to incarceration at age and at current arrest. Those are the 9 elements that they're going to consider when determining whether or not, or that's their risk assessment that they're using. That's the risk assessment. So, I don't know. I think the problem is, and this what's really going to have an impact. The violent offenders are going to be held, right? They're going to be held accountable to a degree. The issue is not so much the violent offenders. To me, the issue is going to be the non-violent offenders who are going to be getting slaps on the wrist. This is not going to work because it's going to cause a rise in property crime. The property crimes are going to go through the roof. The police officers are going to be less inclined to want to make arrest and put themselves in harm's way because there's not going to be any immediate punishment. Unfortunately, the government in Illinois cares more about the innocence or the idea that a criminal is they care more about the criminal than they do about the citizens. So if they care more about the citizens, they wouldn't have taken this approach, to be 100% clear. So I'm curious to know what you guys think about this. Do you see this actually working out in their favor? Do you think that this is a good idea? Now, I told you the bill within itself, the bulk of the bill is great. I'm gonna do a quick survey because I actually really want to know what you guys think about this. Let me see. Is is the cash is the cash is no cash? Hold on. All right, you guys. If you have any questions, I'm gonna take questions. You know how we work this. Please put a Q in front of your question so I can catch it in the comments. I'll put it up on the screen. No question is off the table. So please, by all means, ask away. If you've already asked the question and I missed it, please retype it in the chat. I definitely want to make sure. All is well, Whitney. Shout out to you. All is well. Definitely catch the replay. We're just about to take some questions. So you're right on time. Add your Q to the in front of your question, and then post it in the comment section so I can pull it up. Let me see. How do I want to ask this though? Also, is no cash bail a good idea? I don't know. Is that even a good way? Do you agree with no cash bail? Do you agree with no cash bail? So I'm dropping a question. Thank you so much, Whitney. Thank you. Yeah, please share the content. What'd you say? Sorry, I have to work. It's all good. We're talking about the Safety Act. So, I just kind of given a breakdown of what it actually is. And then let's talk about what it's not, right? This is not the purge. I don't even know why Republicans got together and said that. Again, the issue I have with politicians, they're more concerned about fighting each other than fighting for the issues of the people. So again, they created this thing called the purge. What is it though? What is going to happen with this no cash bail? What is it going to do? It's going to incentivize criminal behavior for especially misdemeanor offenses. You've already going to have felony offenses. The problem with a lot of felony offenses, according to the bill, is that they are going to put it on an assessment. They're going to assess whether or not the person who committed the felony is a danger to the public or a danger to said person. If they cannot prove it, you guys, they're getting up out of jail. That is the issue I have with that. So their intentions, which I don't think are good, but they intend to, on the outside, have good intentions, and they're saying they're using the idea that these are systemic issues. No, these are issues from people who have behavioral problems, right? They want to do what they want to do. They want to commit crime. And now the state wants to take away consequences because they feel sorry for the criminals. It's going to backfire, you guys. It's absolutely going to backfire. You're going to see a spike in property crimes. Why? Because those are going to be considered nonviolent offenses. You're going to see a spike in fraud crimes. Fraud criminals are going to get arrested. And here's the problem, too. Here's how it's also going to backfire. The appetite of a criminal it's everlasting. They have an everlasting appetite. What curbs their appetite? Punishment, punishment, punishment. And if you take the punishment away, all criminals are going to do is going to say, well, I guess I'll do more because I'm not getting in trouble. Classical conditioning, you guys. It's just that simple. When you know you remove the element of accountability, you're going to do more. You're going to do more of said behavior. And that's what's going to happen. Now what's going to happen? It's just like the PPP loan, right? You gave away all this money, but you didn't tell people they'll be held accountable if they got it or took it illegally, right? Now what do you see them doing? Now they're doing this massive sweep, arresting all these people, right, for PPP loan scams and fraud. What's going to happen with the criminals in Chicago? They're going to allow them to gain such a massive rap sheet that eventually they're going to hold them in prison. What's going to happen is they're going to keep committing crime after crime after crime after crime. They're going to continue to slap on the wrist until the judge says, nah, we've arrested you 5 times for the same thing, right? Now you get no bond. And now, right, so it to me, I feel like it's a trap. And anything that the Black Caucus gets behind, I don't know. I question their intentions all the time. What does Whitney say? Says, I do agree the Republicans' choice of words, and I do agree majority of politicians, right or left or center, are not in it for the citizens. Yep. This law is dangerous, though, for the people of Illinois. It is dangerous. Again, and you missed this earlier, Whitney, but I was talking about how here in Atlanta, our mayor did something similar where she decriminalized shoplifting and marijuana, and our shopliftings and smash and grabs went through the roof because the police were like, we can't arrest you, right? We can't arrest you because she said it's not really a crime anymore, right? We can't take you to jail. And her reasoning for it was because Black people are being disproportionately impacted by shoplifting. Swear to God, you can't make this up. These politicians, honestly, the way they talk about Black people is embarrassing. And the way they go on and act and as if Black people aren't intelligent enough to know right from wrong. That's how I take it. I don't know how anybody else take it. We had Stacey Abrams here and out here in Atlanta. She does the same thing. You know, the exact same thing. The political pandering, the race pandering. She's a color justice warrior too. Saying things like, oh, Jim Crow 2.0 and Black people can't get IDs to vote, and that's racist. And it's just, I can't. Lisa Carter says, question, what about those who only crimes only once? So a part of the elements, they look at that. They're going to look at whether or not you've had any previous convictions, if you've committed any crimes prior to this. All those things are taken in consideration when they're determining whether or not they're gonna hold somebody. So good question. Exactly. Star Foundation says, and we're gonna take these until I'm gonna take questions, you guys. So put your questions up. For those who have questions, please throw your questions up. Star Foundation 1 says, why do Black police officers not be on a first name basis with Black people like white police officers with their own? What do you mean, like use their first name? Are you talking about using their first name? So 2 things. When I first started policing, I didn't give my first name out because people were searching for you. And this is back when social media just started, Facebook first started. People will search for you. They try to find out where you live at. But I worked in a predominantly Black community. And I didn't like giving my first name out for privacy reasons. And that was back all the way back starting from 2006. And now the technology now is even worse than that, right? So um, when I went to my second department, it was or my most recent department where I retired at, I worked in a predominantly white community. And they were very big on the officers being um, accessible, and they wanted us on a first name basis. Yep. And that changes the dynamic. But unfortunately, and I'm gonna be completely honest, that one big difference that I noticed between working in predominantly black community policing and then policing in a predominantly white community, it was like middle class, upper middle class. I mean, middle class and upper middle class white community. They loved the police. They wanted them there. They wanted us present. You know, they constantly invested and did for the police officers. There was a high desire for the police. If you weren't in their communities driving around, they would complain. Hey, we don't see any police coming in our communities. You know, they call you by your first name. They show up, and they show up and they do tours around the police department. They wanted to know what's going on. They want to know how their money is being spent. They want to know why the officers don't have the equipment they need to do their job. They're very invested into the police department. They're very invested into the city and the county government. They were very, very invested. Now, where I worked in the black community with, there was a lot of, it was the opposite. I'll just say it was the opposite. It was the opposite. You know, the people need you in the black community, but not everybody respects you in the black community. And you don't always get treated like you're appreciated in the black community. Now, don't shoot the messenger. There's a lot of distrust in certain segments of the black community in regards to the police, rightfully so. There's a historical setting there. And then there's also a setting that's been produced from the media propaganda that has caused some issues and tensions. And and then there's some issues dealing with the citizens that just don't want to be held accountable, and they don't want to own it. They don't want to own their mistake. They don't want to own their contribution into the collapse or destruction of their own communities, right? So that's just the reality. And so I think that tension there, I'm gonna tell you and be honest, when I worked in the black community policing and serving, the citizens appreciated the work, right? They called the police, but there was a lack of respect and appreciation for the officers that worked, in my personal opinion. And it also creates this atmosphere where the distrust is there. Sometimes that distrust comes from the conditioning from the media. It comes from the propaganda. It comes from people living vicariously through other people. And so, what ends up happening is you end up having a lot of contention. And then, of course, you have the citizens dealing with officers who have the ego problems and stuff like that. So I think it's a culmination of a lot of things. But the attitudes are different. The attitudes are different. Definitely. When you feel appreciated, you do your job differently. That's a fact. But when you feel like you're the bad guy, or people call you a race soldier, or they call you a white supremacist, they call you a sellout and things like that. Yeah, you do your job differently. And so it's tough. It's tough. Whitney says, how are smash and grabs not crimes? What about smash and grabs are crimes, but what happened is and I should have said snatch and grabs, but what happened was when Keisha did what she did and decriminalized a lot of stuff, the kids, the juveniles, and the young adults, the first thing they said was, "Oh, damn, okay, well, they're not finna 12 ain't gonna lock us up." Right? It wasn't like they of course, criminals think differently. And I think the problem is we think that if you oh, let's adjust the crime and maybe the criminals won't do it anymore. Right? Let's reduce the consequence so they won't do it. Actually, that's not how the psyche works. For whatever reason, some of these Democrats think that by not punishing the criminals means they're not going to do the crime. It's so it's so weird. That's how you know they have an agenda. So because more black people are being, or it's impacting black people more, so let's not punish them. It's the stupidest logic I've ever heard. Where if you have an issue with, you're saying it's systemic, and you're saying that, and this is what Tariq Nasheed was saying in his video that I was commenting on. He made a comparison with R. Kelly, and he's like, well, if you're not going to hold if you're not going to hold other white people from Hollywood who are touching on kids, then don't hold R. Kelly accountable for him doing it. He said, I don't, what did he say? He said something silly. Don't support racial double standards. So then let's talk about racial double standards, which he's correct about racial double standards. But solving racial double standards has nothing to do with changing the consequence. It's making sure everybody is being held accountable equally. So, but what they are saying, what the politicians are saying in Illinois is that because black people are being disproportionately arrested and being held accountable for these crimes or impacted, then we're going to do away with the consequence because, we got to help black people out. No, black people need to make better choices and decisions, right? Again, we want to, instead of looking at the mentality, the behavior, we're focusing on the consequence. The real money, where we need to be investing our intention and our money in, is the mentality and the behavior, looking at the environment, looking at the parenting, looking at the households, looking at the communities. The consequences need to be what the consequences are. We don't change the consequences. No, we need to figure out why they are making these decisions. Why do we have so many young black men and women who are committing these crimes disproportionately to white people? That's what we need to be looking at. And then we need to make sure that when sentencing comes around, when punishment comes around, that everybody is being hit with the same punishment, period. No, there should be no different. I also believe that if a black person is being charged with a crime, and then they're convicted, say it's burglary, and they say, all right, John, you're about to be convicted of burglary, and we're going to give you 10 years. If your attorney, this is what I believe should be a law. If your attorney, and you're black, if your attorney can find where another criminal offender who was convicted of burglary in the same manner that you did, right? You kicked the door and took some stuff and went on about your business. And you find a white criminal, male, female, right? Or an Asian or Hispanic criminal, right? Who cares? Or white, because we all like to compare white and black. If you find a white criminal who did the same exact thing, but the judge gave them 3 years, I believe by law, you should be able to get the 3 years and get your sentence brought down to 3. I don't know what that law should be called. I don't know, maybe the grandfather law, right? I get to be grandfathered in because you can't. How do you give someone less time for the same type of crime you committed? That's what I have an issue with, the sentencing disparities. Nah, keep the punishment as it is. Make sure it's equitable. Make sure it's equitable, right? Not fair, equal across the board. That's what I care. Nah, that we should get same time for everybody. Same time. That's the issue that I have. Yep. That's the issue I have. What about black small businesses? Do they not matter? Not only that, they really believe black people are dumb. Yes, they do. They absolutely do. It said it's so damn heartbreaking to me. Yeah, they do think we're dumb. And again, look, they act like we're on the short yellow bus. They do that because it's called pandering. It's called pandering, and they do that for votes. They do that for votes. They do it for votes. That's how they ensure. Oh, what'd you do for black people? Well, we did this big police reform bill. We did the Safety Act. We reduced bail. I mean, could you imagine how many black folks probably in Illinois are like, oh, shoot, we don't gotta, I get in trouble. I ain't gotta, guess, they crunch numbers. How many people do we have going through our criminal justice system in Illinois? That many? How many are black? Oh, you know what we're going to do for them? We're going to guarantee their vote. What are we going to do? No cash bonds. We're going to do away with cash bonds. Now, me as someone who doesn't like the criminal justice system because I'm always in it, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to vote for this guy. Why? He's looking after my best interests. Symbolism. All throughout his speech, he's talking about what he did for black people. Oh, I'm doing this for, your community I'm listening to his speech, you guys, pandering all day, race hustling. And we fall for it every time. Again, you want to talk about the consequence. You don't ever want to address the behavior. You don't want to address the mentality. You don't want to talk about the environment. You don't want to talk about the upbringing. Where are the parents at? Right? No one talks about the parents. No one holds these parents accountable for raising these heathens, these menaces to societies in our community. We don't like to talk about it. We glance over it like it's not a thing. You guys, I would deal with parents or parent because fathers seem to always be missing in our community, unfortunately. I'll talk to the parent and they would write children off. Hey, I can't control him. I can't control her. I got other kids to worry about. Where's his father? I don't know. You guys, that is a consistent thing. I can count on one hand how many homes I've been to, and there was a father present. Until we're ready to deal with the real issues in our community, you guys, all this other stuff right here that they're talking about isn't going to mean anything. You skip all the major steps and you want to get right to the end of it. The end of it is the consequence. Silly to me. Yeah, see, they don't do first name. She said they don't do first name basis in Charleston. Oh my gosh. Questions. Question. Sochi says, what is the alternative to you? I feel like it's not perfect, but I'm not for people sitting in jail for years if they can't afford to get out when they aren't guilty. There will be a bias at times. Good point. That's a good point. That's why I think the system will never be perfect. Therefore, it's on our best interest not to put ourselves in positions to be in the system. And I do agree that there needs to be an assessment tool. I believe that felonies should be off the table completely, right? It's non-negotiable. Misdemeanors, I think if he came out and said misdemeanors or offenses, see, my thing is this: it shouldn't be property crimes. It should be only the crimes that are, I mean, but how many of them are there, right? I mean, you have crimes against society. You'll have prostitution. You'll have uh, DUI, suspended license, arrest. Honestly, they need to just leave it alone. I just think it's a bad idea altogether. I think the assessment tools should be used in regards to reducing the bond, but not getting rid of the bond. I think the bond needs to be in place, period. Use the assessment tool to reduce the bond, but not get rid of it. I think the bond needs to be there, stay in place. And that's, yeah, you know, yeah. If you commit a victimless crime, which I don't really think there's any crimes that are truly victimless, but if you commit a crime that's where there is not an immediate victim, like you didn't do something to someone, then I think you should be eligible for a risk assessment. So the alternatives would be to use the risk assessment tool for people who cannot bond out. See, they created this. They said a lot of foolishness, but the reality is they're saying that this is for socioeconomic reasons. Okay. So then use the risk assessment tool for those who can't bond out. But then the problem will be everybody will act like they can't bond out and they don't got money, right? Because they don't want to pay. Paying is also part of the punishment process. It is. And it's a deterrent. It's a deterrent. And they said that, but they didn't see a correlation between it being a deterrent and the recidivism rate. Well, recidivism at the end of the day is all a choice. So all this is a choice at the end of the day. So if you do something and get back in jail, that's on you. Now you can say people who have a soft heart will say, well, his conditions or her conditions didn't allow them to make better decisions, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. But you still made the choice and you went back, right? So I get it, but like Kevin Samuels used to say, life don't owe you any understanding. You guys, life's tough, man. It is. It's unfair. And if you come from a family or a household that's broken and dysfunctional, the society doesn't care about that. Being a parent, having a family, and having those bonds, those things are so vital to the growth and the health of an individual and the insurance that they'll come out and be productive citizens. So people out here making these kids and they're not raising them right, they're not taking care of them, they throw them out to the wasteland. You guys, it is. That's why we need that money. Instead of putting 250 million over the course of 3 years in the police department, man, put them in these real social programs that actually work, that are going to give people counseling, teaching these parents how to be parents, and really figuring out some other solutions. But catching them at the consequence stage is too late, in my personal opinion. It's way too late. Why aren't police officers, judges required to take? I don't know about judges, but police officers are required to take a random drug test. I don't know about judges. They do have psych assessments, but I mean those things aren't really a big deal to pass, right? You're not going to say, "Hey, I'm hearing voices," right? So it's really kind of a joke, to be honest. Lee Carter says, question: if all departments nationwide have body cams, benefits everyone, not just law enforcement. Absolutely agree. Oh, this is a good point. Ms. Safir says, I think this more so has to do with the lack of staffing to account for all the criminals in jail. That could very much be true. A lack of staffing. They said it also would save the taxpayer like $150 a day or something like that, I think. It's expensive to hold criminals, right? So I agree. Staffing and then cost. Absolutely. Then my thing would just be saying, just say that. Why are white communities safer than black communities? I wouldn't necessarily say that they are safer, right? All communities have crime in it. Now, and technically, white people commit more crimes than black people. Black people commit some disproportionate type of crimes, right? But white people commit more crimes. So it's not that they're necessarily safer or not. Um, I think when you look at crime, when you look at communities based on uh, the socioeconomic status of different communities, there are black communities that are very safe, right? And there are some that are not. There's some white communities that are very unsafe. So, I would say that wouldn't be the most accurate way to ask that question. I would say, why are some of our black communities not safe? I would just leave it at that. That would be the best way to ask that question. Why are some of the white communities unsafe? I would leave it at that, because then we'll be examining that specific type of community in that specific area. But there are a lot of black communities that are safe, and there are some that are not, and that's true for white people as well. Um, but that's still a good question though, and there's a lot to that. There's a lot to that response. There's a lot to that. A lot of variables, in my opinion, and I think they're different for both communities. I don't think they're the same. I don't think the variables for unsafe here versus unsafe there, I don't think they're the same. Question. So she says, why does your thought process lead you to believe that this is more beneficial for the guilty rather than the innocent? Do you believe that the extended time leads to plea agreements? Let me think about that real quick. Why does your thought process lead you to believe that this is more beneficial for the guilty? I think that it's more beneficial. I think that let's just argue that the governor and those involved in putting this together, let's agree that they have good intentions. I think that they're focused on the minority than the majority. I think there is a percentage of people who not necessarily are innocent, they're just innocent until proven guilty, right? The problem is you might be innocent until proven guilty, but you can't afford to bond out, so you're sitting in jail, and it does cause a lot of other issues. This is true. It's unfortunate, and it is a part of the system that I could see needs to be adjusted. And I think that the assessment tool is a good tool to use to determine whether or not a person is going to be, one, a flight risk, two, whether or not they're going to be a danger to anyone, and then three, whether or not they're going to be, I guess, a risk. I forgot what the other one was: flight risk and a danger. I think there's a third one, but I can't think of off the top of my head. I think that they are looking. I think they're trying to. I think they're trying to protect the few instead of looking at the many. And unfortunately, the small percentage is always going to suffer behind the majority. That's just the reality. I think a better way to address it would be to use the assessment tool in order to reduce people's bond amount, but not abolish the cash bond at all, but use the assessment to determine that, okay, you might be innocent and what you did was a misdemeanor, but it wasn't a violent offense. Okay, you can't afford to bond out. All right, well, let's look at the assessment tool and see if you qualify for a reduction in bond. And if you qualify based on the assessment tool, then you get out. I think that's more of a fair way to assess a situation instead of removing the cash bond in its entirety, because the cash bond does act as a deterrent. And unfortunately, the few get caught up and tangled up with the many. And that's just life. That's just life, unfortunately. Um, in a perfect world, right? It wouldn't be necessary because the good will be able to be distinguished from the bad. But that, unfortunately, the good get caught up in the bad. I mean, it's no different than policing, right? I put on a uniform, everybody looks at me as the bad guy, but I'm a good guy. Unfortunately, it's the bad apples that make everybody look bad, the consequences of life. It's the same thing. It's no different with this, right? The minority fall victim to what the majority are doing. Um, so to your point, I think that they're focusing on the innocent, but are not looking at the repercussions of the impact it will have on the actual guilty. Now, the guilty can hide and under the guise of this new law. That's the issue. So you're giving the guilty a way out along with the innocent. So now that's the problem. It's just like the law everybody hates with qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is the same thing. You have a an officer who did make an honest mistake, but now is being put under this umbrella of litigation because of the mistake that they made. Qualified immunity protects the officer who was acting in good faith, but qualified immunity can also protect a bad officer who pretends like they were acting in good faith. So the law qualified immunity protects can protect the bad and protect the good. Though it was meant to protect the good, the bad also take advantage of it. So now with this law, it's the same thing. You have the Safety Act is something to protect the good, but it's also there protecting the bad. The bad are able to take advantage of something that was meant for those who, right? So, and that's the issue. The issue is that the loophole is too great, and the criminals are going to take advantage of it, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Yay, Suzette Speaks. I haven't seen you in a while. Shout out to you. You guys, please go and check out Suzette Speaks. She is a great content creator as well. I think we're overdue for a collab. I think our last collab we did, our collabs are always like depressing though. It's always about some shootings, but great conversation over there. Please go and check her out, you guys. And I also did a collab with Gail as well. If Gail's still in the chat, she's, you guys, she's my number one moderator. And shout out to all my moderators as well. You guys, thank you so much. We're going to be closing out soon. But yeah, please go and check out Gail. Gail, if you're still here, drop your link as well, my dear, so they can follow you. She has a video. I went over there talking about the RICO cases and stuff like that that's been happening recently in Atlanta. We had a great conversation over there. So I think she's doing a premiere soon. I think I saw a notification. So Gail, if you're still here, I don't know. Gail be in and out. She'd be in and out. Let me see. Any more questions, you guys? Any more questions? PJ said because nothing positive going on at 2 a.m. All right, Wes Anderson, what you got for us? What if they want them to do the crime so they can lock them up or have reason to lock them up? That's kind of what I was thinking too. I was thinking it's almost kind of like a setup. They want to kind of build a case to where they can stick it to them harder, right? So that was kind of my thinking. Honestly, I don't know. I'm still a little suspicious about this. But again, 90% of the bill was on point, right? And we covered it. A lot of stuff on there was on point. I'm just not with the cash. But I think there was a different way to go about doing it. To be completely honest, I think there's a different way to go about doing it. Dismissing all of it and then using the assessment tool, not filling it at all. So let me go to the voting. Let me see how you guys voted. Yeah, 85% of you guys voted no for the for the cash bail. So if you haven't voted, want to get your votes in real quick, please, please, please go in and vote before I end the poll, before we end the chat, and then I want to give a final assessment. Shout out to Gail. Gail, when are you gonna post that video? I want them to check it out. It was a great conversation. Me and Gail are overdue for a collab too. Gail, you need to come on my channel. You need to come over here so we can have a discussion. You guys, Gail is so awesome. And she's always supporting. I think it's time, Gail. You definitely gotta come over here. We gotta set something up and have a discussion. There's always so much to talk about over here. So we definitely gonna do that. Gail is full of life, full of energy, you guys, and she's always got my back. So I always appreciate, what she does. So on YouTube and behind the scenes, you guys. So we're actually really, really cool in real life. So shout out to Gail. Let me see. Make sure I don't miss any questions. What? Y'all are crazy. My feet are nice too, actually. I don't play that. My feet are on point. Shout out to the Care Bear image. That used to be the joint back in the day. Care Bear stare. See, when we were kids, we had loving cartoons, taught you how to love, how to fight bad energy with positive energy. They're shooting beams of strawberries and candies and rainbows from their stomach. Oh, you're feeling down today, Teddy Bear Jr.? Take this Care Bear stare, right? So, man, shout out to the Care Bears, man. Now, what are these kids watching on TV? Jesus Christ, right? He said, okay, I'm out, y'all. Don't play stupid games. Don't win stupid prizes. Amen to that. It's just that simple. This is true, though. Chicago does. Chicago absolutely does. Any questions? Any more questions? Okay, we got D Nicole. Sorry, guys, I'm behind on the chat. So if you throw your question, I'm getting to it. D Nicole says, "How do you think this will affect domestic violence?" They did put a caveat on there, in reference to domestic violence. Let me see, because I took some notes. Domestic violence was on here. Let me just see. Yeah, domestic violence. I think that's going to be part of the risk assessment, because what they want to look at is, are you going to be a danger to somebody else? So I don't think this is going to have a big impact on domestic violence. They cannot mess with domestic violence. That there's just no way they're going to be releasing them out with no cash bond like that, or they might. But again, they're going to look at one thing that I read that I thought was very interesting is that the state has to prove that this person is violent and will be a danger to someone else or to society. And if you can't convince the judge is not going to keep the person locked up. So that's a great question, but it's on them to prove that. It's on them to prove that. Let me see. Reminds me of Best Buy. They will match the price with other products. Oh, let me see. There's a lot of people who are voting for these people who are mainly Black. Facts. That's so true. Yeah, folks, you know what I noticed too? People will vote Democrat down the ballot. They don't know who these people are or anything. I'm going to do a video on Stacey Abrams too, talking about some of the race baiting stuff she does, and I'm not feeling, you guys. I want you to hear the things that she says, and I'm curious to know what you think. Suzette says cases can come with unique sets of facts and nuanced circumstances. This is true. This is very true. You're right about that. But Nathan, point taken. Yes, sometimes glaring disparities in the systems I want judges to maintain discretion, though. I agree. I agree with that. I'll be curious to know what you think too, in reference to what are your thoughts? Have you got a chance to? You guys, for those who don't know, Suzette speaks. She is she's an attorney. She's a yes civil attorney. She's a civil attorney. Suzette, what are your thoughts, real quick, on this? Are you familiar with the I forgot what the Safety Act? Are you familiar with that? The one in Illinois that people have been hooping and hollering about. I don't know if you did a video on it, but I've been out of town. I just got back in town, so I'm not sure if you looked at it or if you covered it or not. But just I'm curious if you agree with it or not. But we covered the bill within itself, the key points of the bill, which are great. But this is the cash bond, the no cash bond. The abolishing the cash bonds is a piece that I don't like the way they did it, how they put it together. Woo, ain't this the truth right here, boy? Yes, word wizards. Yep, absolutely. That's exactly. Absolutely, word wizards. That governor, man, I was listening to him talk, and I was just like, this guy's I was gonna play the video tonight, and I was like, I have the timestamps and everything. The stuff they say, I'm just like, this is crazy to me. Lisa says, would the Fair Sentencing Act cover equality for everyone based upon only the charges? Like Suzette said, there are so many nuanced circumstances with crime, which I agree. But and not only that, when sentencing comes about, and what they don't tell you when it comes to sentencing is that your criminal history is looked upon. So, when they say that there's disparities with the sentencing. Now, the problem with the data is that they're not making the adjustment for is this it? Sorry for the sniffling, guys. My allergies are kicking my butt. Here's what I have an issue with. So follow me on this. Follow me on this real quick. I want to show you guys something. You guys know I keep my data ready because I'll be out here dealing with these folks. They be trying to. All right. So let's look at this. Let me see if I can blow this up even more. According to the United States Sentencing Commission, reported last week that Black male offenders receive sentences on average of 19.1% longer than similarly situated white male offenders. All right. And this is a well-known fact. But what they don't tell you is, in which I do know this, but I'm curious how they factor in all these details. But when you're being sentenced, which they do not add in here, to add that caveat, because this is a lot, right? Black people for the same similar crimes are being, on average, sentenced to 19% longer sentences for same similar offenses, right? That's a problem. I don't agree with that. So with that being said, one thing that they do not add in here is that what is considered during sentencing is your criminal history. So the data needs to reflect the criminal history. I want to see what the criminal histories are of the people that you're comparing this data with, because that to me is a very, very crucial part. Because if you have a white offender who may have a small criminal history, maybe not that violent criminal history, but you have a black person who has a very violent criminal history with a lot of offenses, then you're going to more likely sentence that one stronger, with a higher sentencing. I would like to see whether or not you have whites who have similar criminal history than a black person, and then yet still get lesser sentencing. That's a problem, right? Or you have a situation where it's more of the judge doesn't see value in the person that they're looking at, which is black. And therefore, if they don't see value or they don't see this person as being redeemable, then they give them a higher sentencing. That's a fact, and that does happen. So you have people who are detached, from, they're not impartial, right? They're biased. And therefore, their biases show in their sentencing, which I believe that there needs to be oversight on sentencing offenders. And I believe, like I said earlier, what should be a law is that if your attorney can find someone who has a similar case, similar situation, whether black, white, Asian, Hispanic, doesn't matter, and that person under similar circumstances, similar criminal history, got 5 years and you're getting 20, by default, the judge should have to reduce to one of the most recent cases. And if that's 5 years, then they can't give you no more than 5 years. And that to me will keep people honest, in my personal opinion. At least, that's how I look at it. Shoot. Let me see. Appreciate you. Appreciate you too, my dear. Appreciate you. Let me go back up, see if I miss any questions. You guys are asking some really, really, really good questions. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. What's up, Michi? What's up? What's up? What's up? Michi in the building. Let me see. Michi says she live in a black community where they play golf all day and no crime. Michi, you saying you stay in a gated community? I heard someone told me if you stay in a gated community, that's racist. If y'all haven't seen that video right there, I promise you, laughs for days. Damn, let me see. How far up was I? I missed all these questions. I'm gonna get y'all's questions. Give me a second. Missing some. Okay. We are. All right. Let me catch these questions. Soji said, did you read the full bill? Yeah, I did. I read a lot of it. I didn't read the full bill. I tried to pull out a lot of the key points. Mainly, I didn't even know when all this came about. I didn't even know it was already a pre-existing bill, and they were just adding on the abolishing the cash bond. So what led me to want to do the stream on it was because the bill has so much more in it. So I try to pull out all the key points from the different categories, right? And so, but then I read it because what I did first was I wanted to hear the speech, and before he signed, to hear what because initially when I heard about it, folks were like, "Oh, the purge," and I was like, "What is going on with this? We talking about the purge?" And they're saying that they're doing away with all murders and robbers will just walk out. They're not going to get they don't have to pay a bond to get out of jail. I was like, "What? That sounds crazy." I said, there's no way. There's no way. That don't even sound right. And then, of course, a normal person will do research, right? Abnormal people are going to believe what they see on social media. And so then I wanted to hear what the governor actually had to say about why he was doing it and things like that. So I took notes on what his reasonings were and what led him to do it. And it was based on a lot. The argument was based on the socioeconomic, the systemic issues plaguing Black communities, and minority communities, saying that they are impacted more from this. And so I was like, okay, I get that, and I don't think there's addressing an issue that you see. Cool. How you go about addressing it, I think, is another thing. And so, so that's what led me to listen to the speech, to kind of hear what his thought process and what was going on. And yeah, and then I went and did the research on the bill itself, and I was actually really impressed with the bill. Again, like 90% of it is on point. The ones that we're reading over, so I was impressed with it. But yeah, the speech is there for pandering purposes for sure. I don't believe any of that stuff he was saying. I don't believe that he believes that stuff he was saying. You can tell when a person's not genuine. Let me see. Let me get to these questions, you guys. And the problem is that bill's not going to solve the problem. I think that is my issue at the end of the day, you guys, is that the bill is not going to solve anything. It's not. All that money that they're putting in, the majority of that money is going to police departments. It's going to the police. $250 million for 3 years. You guys, it's going to the police. That money does not need to go to the police. That money needs to be going to fixing these communities up, fixing the school systems, getting some counseling, providing some therapy, getting some social programs, figuring out why these kids are tyrants in their communities, right? Looking at these broken homes and these broken communities. Like, that's where the money, $250 million given to the police department. Nah, not at all. It's almost like an excuse to cut a check to the police. The police are not the answer, you guys. The police are not the answer to these social issues. I don't know. Everybody, you hear Biden talk about it. You hear politicians, we're going to give more money to the police. For what? That's not where the problem's at. Again, you're investing and putting energy into the wrong thing. Again, the police are transporters, the criminal justice system's the door, and the people are the key. That's it. You take your key and you open up the door, and the police will drive your ass through it. It's just that simple. The police are not what needs to be funded at all. What the budget the police got is enough already. Buy them cameras. That's what they need. First thing we need the officers to have body cameras. Second, we need to reduce the police department. And third, we need to train them better and reduce the type of crimes that they're responding to. Period. About 80% of the 911 calls police respond to, they shouldn't be responding to. It should be all social. A lot of them are social issues. So everything needs to be revamped. But giving the police $250 million a year for the police budget? Nah, hell no. That's way too much money. Absolutely. They've been giving the police money year after year. They don't even, and it's not that they're not doing anything with it, because they are, but that's not what the problem is, right? So while we're trying to adjust the consequence, we need to be trying to reform the environment. And I mean, I don't know. There's other things they can do. How about we just leave it at that? $143 a day. That's how much it costs to keep somebody in jail. It's a lot of money taxpayers paying. Thank you, Whitney. What does Whitney say? Broken homes are a real issue. I grew up in a toxic single mother household. I hope one day to get on a platform and talk about this issue. You're more than welcome to come on here. More than welcome. If you want to start a channel, I'll tell you how to do it. I'm still learning myself, but absolutely. I mean, it is. Broken homes, man, is what the issues are in these communities, white communities, Black and Hispanic communities, right? Those are the ones I work, so I can speak on those. Broken homes, man, that's what the problems are. Put $250 million in that, and then come talk to me. Then come talk to me. Yeah, shout out to the sundown towns. You know, holla at these gangsters and gang members that we have. Tell them to go in these sundown towns and provide some corrective therapy. That's my personal opinion. Since they want to tear up their own communities, they need to go to these sundown towns and get people up to speed on reality of the 21st century. You know, some folks stuck in 1825 sundown towns. That's crazy to me that we still have those in this country. I would urge every able-bodied, common sense person to flood these places. Now, let me not say that. I'm a different kind of problem solver. Do you believe parents should be held accountable for their children's crimes? Absolutely, I think they should be held accountable. The problem, though, with some parents, they have no control over their kids. You know, so I've dealt with parents who would just tell me, like, I can't control him. I can't control her. But like, you know, he's 15, right? You know, I think we forget, or sometimes we fail to realize how important having a father in a household is. Not having a father in a household impacts all people, right? It's not a unique thing to Black people. Not having a mother in a household affects everybody, not only Black people, right? So when we talk about dysfunctional homes, and you know, that's a thing. So it is. I think holding parents accountable, absolutely, absolutely. What does that look like? That's a good question. That's a good question. Boy, that Benadryl kicking in. I don't know why my allergies are acting up, man. But we about to we're about to shut it down before I fall out. Can't be passed. Can't be passed out on the stream. Let me see. Make sure I get to the last questions you guys have. Shout out to you, Michi. Shout out to you. Let me see. No question. Let me see. Sochi says, realistically and hypothetically speaking, what percentage of those in prison do you believe have taken a plea deal due to financial circumstances or already spending a lot of time waiting trial? Honestly, I don't know, but I do know unfairly, I do believe that people are pressured in taking plea deals because the courts don't want to go through the hassle of court. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair to bully people into plea deals because, you know, the courts are understaffed and their caseload and blah, 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 blah. I do know that people do take plea deals because they don't want to. It's a gamble, right? It's a gamble. It sucks. It sucks. Say you did the crime though, right? Let's just say hypothetically, you did the crime, but you don't agree with the sentencing. I don't really have any emotional, I don't really feel bad for that person, right? Because at the end of the day, it's don't do the crime. It's don't do the crime. I only feel bad for people who are truly innocent and are caught into the criminal justice system and they have to maneuver. And we know innocent people have been caught up in the criminal justice system. They've been lied on, you know, or they've been framed, or, you know, we got to talk about, and I had this interview with the prosecutor about how you have some prosecutors who enforce I would say, use their power and authority from a place of their ego, right? Like, oh, I've never lost a case, so I'm gonna do whatever I can, right? And so they care more about their stats. It's like a competitive thing, and they're juggling people's lives and livelihood. Those are the type of things that need to be removed out of the criminal justice system, where you have proper checks and balances to ensure you don't have prosecutors who are out here trying to maintain their image or maintain their status on the cost or on the back of your life, right, or your livelihood. And you become a pawn in the court game. And that's not fair, right? That's absolutely not fair. Those things need to be addressed. I'm curious, if there's a proper way to deal with these situations, though. But this is an issue. This is definitely an issue. Um, that's actually a great question. Let me see. I understand. Are you against qualified immunity? Yes and no. I believe qualified immunity needs to be. It needs to be adjusted. It needs to be tweaked. Or you can do away with it, but you need to replace it with something. You can't just take qualified immunity away. It's there for a reason. It's just that it's abused. So there's a way to fix it so it's not abused. There's a way to fix it to where it not only protects officers who are operating under the color of law, protect them, but you can tweak it. You can actually adjust it to where it's not shielding bad officers who knew they made a mistake. They did make a mistake, but you can there's a way to actually tweak it to where you're not protecting. It's not protecting bad officers. But say if you just want to get rid of it, then yeah, I have a solution for that. You insure the officers, right? With insurance, they get a license to police, and you insure them with maybe $1 million policy, and you send them out there. And if you get sued twice and you get dropped from your insurance, then that's it. Cuckoo cuckoo, right? You're done. You can't police nowhere nationwide, and your license should be nationwide license. So if you lose your nationwide license, you can't go nowhere and police. So that creates that incentive as well to be mindful of how you do your job. That's the same way they do with doctors. And doctors is a profession, right? You get a doctor's license, a nurse's license. If you mess your license up anywhere in any state, good luck, right? So you need something. So it's not that I'm against qualified immunity, is just the protection against civil lawsuits. Officers need that protection. The problem is you need to do it to where you're not also protecting and covering bad officers, and that's what it does. It doesn't do a good job of distinguishing between the two. I think it just provides too many. It makes the excuse and the loophole for bad officers to climb through. To be completely honest, this is a good question. Could this lead to the federalization of a police in the future? I think that's what they want to do. Here's my theory. They want people to hate the police. They want people to not trust the police. And then they want people to lean on the government. Again, the federal government. The federal government wants to take over, you guys. Let's just be completely honest. They want to take over. And they're very slick about how they do it. They do it with money with the states, right? They'll say like, well, I'll give you some money to do these things, but you got to do this our way, right? That's how they work. They're very sneaky because the federal government can't just up and just take over things, right? You got to invite them in, right? It's like Candyman. You got to call them 3 times before they show up. So the federal government's tricky like that. So what do? They get the citizens to hate the police. The citizens' last line of defense, right, is the law enforcement, sheriff and the police. You get the people to hate the people who are there to protect them. And then you beg for the federal government because you think they can do better. And then, of course, to your point, then they federalize the police, and that's the real problem. So no, you don't want that to happen. But I do think that's what they're trying to do. I thought after what Black Lives Matter was doing and all those marchings and things, I thought that was the end of policing, to be honest. I was like, oh, here we go. You're gonna bring the federales in, and it's gonna be federal policing, and then that's when we're gonna really have a problem. Absolutely. Yeah, people better wake up. Do you believe everyone that scammed PPP loans and tech will be arrested for federal charges? I don't know. But they're hunting though. I heard they've been sweeping up. I have a friend who's telling me they're catching a lot of people. You don't hear about it, but they catching a lot of people behind that. A lot of people. I don't know what their intent is or why, but yeah, you guys put a Q in front of your question so I can catch it because I'm scrolling through, so I don't miss it. Star Foundation one says, "What do you think about Black Youth Invention Program?" I'm not familiar with it. If that's something, I'm not familiar with it. Black Youth Invention Program. That's not something I'm familiar with. If you have something on it, send it to me. I'll take a look at it. But just off the top of my head, I haven't heard of that before. Um, let's see. Uh, so she said, I would vote for Stacey over Kemp. Actions speak louder than words, pandering than those pandering words, but there are Black people that vote Republican as though is a badge of voting against their own interests. I think personally, it shouldn't matter whether you vote left or right. I think it should matter whether or not your interests are being, one, heard, and also being executed. So there might be a season where I'm like, okay, well, the left seems to be on point with the things that I need done, the things that I'm asking for, things that are important to me. And there might be a season when they're not. But what I don't like about what Stacey Abrams does is that she uses race and racism a lot to try to see. My thing is, if you just speak to the issues that need to be addressed, but what she does is she makes everything about race and blames. And I know the stuff that's going on here, and I don't see no racism. I see a bunch of foolishness. And so when you try to win people over with this is racist and that's racist, and it's really not, then again, now I see you as pandering. What she's doing is she does what Biden was doing, right? Hey, if you don't vote for me, you're not Black, right? Or what Hillary was doing. Oh, I keep hot sauce in my purse, right? Like, come on, come on, you know. And then, again, you don't follow through with the promises. You don't follow through. You don't follow through. And again, how the insanity behind voting for the same political party is crazy to me. I just want people to do their job. I don't care what color they represent. Are you going to be doing your job? I can respect the person who does what they say they're going to do. That's just across the board. I think this country's so divided by color. It's sickening at this point. It's really sickening. Thank you, Matt. This is a great question, and this is why I think this is bad, because there's no investigation. How much time do you need to investigate? Because the whole idea is innocent until proven guilty. So, but I just arrested the person. So how much time do I need? I need time to investigate the case. Well, if you're just going to turn around and let them go, then how am I going to provide any type of substantial evidence that's going to support that this person is violent, this person is a risk, a flight risk, you know what I mean? Or this person is a danger to the community. How am I going to provide that information within the next couple hours when the person just got? So I don't like it. And I also feel like the risk assessment will be abused, right? And I think whoever's celebrating the idea in this moment are not going to like it, how it's going to be used. And it's going to be used because in a way where I just see them abusing it. Because anytime you start putting a person's subjectiveness into it, it's over with. That's when the bias comes in, because then I might interpret something more dangerous than what another person might interpret it. And there lies the issue. That's a great question. Do we think we need a youth invention program? I think they have them. I think when you're creating youth programs, one of the things that I notice is that you got to create things that the youth want, not what you want for them, because they have to have the desire to want to do it. I remember when they built a rec center in the community I was policing, and the kids there, because the whole thing was they're like, all the kids commit so much crime during the summer. Again, right? Not addressing the behavior, trying to address the outcome. Oh, they commit so much crime. The kids need something to do. No, they need to sit their ass down, right? That's what they need to do, right? All this negotiating with children, I don't understand, but this is what a lot of people like to do. They like to negotiate with the kids, and these kids are committing violent offenses, right? They're doing home invasions, they're breaking into people's homes, they're carjacking people. And so the summer, the crime was going through the roof. So the county was like, people were complaining, and they're saying, well, the kids don't have nothing to do. If you build a library, right? If you build a rec center, it'll give them something. They'll go there and hang out and do something positive. See, this is how I know when people talk about certain things, you guys. These little activists, you know, these activists that come in to a lot of these communities sometimes, and they say, you know, these communities don't have a playground, or they don't have this, they don't have that. I'm like, you haven't dealt with these kids. You know, you can't treat every community the same. Every community has a unique problem. Do those things help? Yes, they do help. I'm not saying those things don't help or they don't make a difference. But I'm telling you guys, there are some young adults that they don't want a community center. That has nothing to do with why they are doing what they are doing. It's not because they are bored, right? And there's different types of crime. You got kids who get into kid shit. That's different, right? There's kid shit, and then there's crime shit. That's two different types of shit. It's shit, but they're different types, right? It's kid stuff. Like, we all got into kid stuff, right? We're doing stuff we know them as doing. And then there's criminal acts that kids are doing because they want to do it, and there's an incentive for them to do it, right? And so that is the difference that we have to make the distinction between. There's kids that get into stuff because they're bored, and then the kids that are actually out here intentionally committing crime. A rec center is not going to change that. A park is not going to change that. And so they built this rec center. It was a beautiful rec center. TVs, they had a little IT area in there, whatever. You know what they did? You know what was happening? They went in there, broke into the place, stole the TVs, right? Stole the computers. Kids were using the bathrooms inside the facility to smoke weed and sell drugs. We would find open condoms all over inside the building, you know, after hours at night. They're breaking in, using that place, you know, squatting inside the building. It got so bad they didn't have to shut it down, right? If you build it, they will come. Damn right they will. They'll come and tear it up. So you do have to be mindful. You got to give the kids what they, not necessarily what you think they want. You have to give them stuff they need, but then the things that they want at the same time. You got to find a happy medium. And all kids are not created equal. And you got to understand, what type of kids are you dealing with? Are you dealing with kids that are just getting into stuff, or kids that are committing crime because there's a monetary value that they're getting from it? And so now you got to, like, okay, well, let's see if we can get these kids some jobs, and then, or give them something to do where you take them and have them do projects and pay them, try to find, you know, educate them on other ways to make money outside of this way. You know, you got to give them something that sparks their interest, because a lot of times it's money. They want to make money. And they're using deviant behavior as a way to make a financial return on their investment. So that's kind of the problem there. Yep. Shout out. We got a Chicago veteran in here. She says, I live in Chicago. Ever since they tore down the projects and displaced everybody into different communities, the violent crimes went up. I don't think the safety will make a difference. Yeah, no, it won't make a difference. Yep, it won't make a difference. Exactly, not soon enough. I think that's unacceptable. Unacceptable. It won't make a difference. Good night, Dre. Shout out to Dre, hardworking brother right there. Um, did Biden give 83 million to the police? Yes, he did. Biden gave 83 million to the police, but not just the police. 90% that went to the federal police. People forget Biden gave money to the federal police. That's FBI, ATF, the DEA. So police reform. You guys, you got to read through this stuff and really find out. I did a video on that and broke down the bill that he was cutting a check on, and none of that stuff was for the state law enforcement, state and local law enforcement. None of that. I think he threw in there, and he was giving body. See, what happens is they give their speech, say, "Oh, we're going to give 83 million for police reform, police for training, blah blah blah." Then you go in there and read it. It's like for federal agencies, body cam for federal agents. Okay, yeah, but the problems with the state and local police. Cuckoo, cuckoo. Who would have knew, you guys? Again, that's why this channel is here, right? Shout out to you, Yvette, Miss Moore. Miss Moorhead, okay. For the $20 super chat. Said, love the show, great information. Love your name, my dear. That's a beautiful name. So Miss Moorhead, okay. But you're right. I know they be getting on you about your name. I know they do, Miss Moorhead. What's your name, ma'am? Miss Moorhead. I love it. I love it. But I think to your point, it's gonna fail, right? This is gonna fail. The cash bond thing, abolishing cash bond is ridiculous. The structure is ridiculous, and it seems very like some nefarious things going on behind that setup. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really, really appreciate it. Right on time. Olivia said her allergies are off the chain too. Okay, so I guess it's just not me. I don't know what it was. As soon as I got back, I was sneezing, ears itching, the whole nine yards. She said she got allergies too. I can't. I hate my allergies. Yeah, I don't know why. I was doing really good this year. I'm doing really good this year. Do you think we need youth invention program that could keep our children out of jail? Do we need something to keep the youth out of jail? We do. We need programs. Michi knows a couple of them. We need people. We need us to go in our own communities and start fixing our own communities. We got to go in and just start dealing with it, right? Like no one else is going to be able to do it. They can throw some money to the programs, but to be honest, you guys, it's going to have to be boots on the ground. We have to go in our own communities and start cleaning up. And it's hard because it's hard to talk to some of these young kids, man. They'll put their hands on you. They'll shoot you, right? It's hard, but no one else is going to do it, man. No one else is going to do it. The government doesn't. They think throwing money at the police is going to help solve the problem. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Thought of y'all's right. She said, go to bed, get some rest. I am. All right, let me scroll down. Make sure I didn't miss nothing. Let me scroll down. I'm going to bed, you guys. I promise. I just hate when I miss people's questions. Yeah. Shout out to Chris, my boy right here. He said, I think police will be privatized by the corporation in the future. Yeah, I think so too. I think that's where it's going to end up going, where you're going to have to buy police coverage. And based on, again, it's going to be a socioeconomic thing. Based on what you can afford will determine the quality of police you get, right? So I love answering you guys this question because I feel like I don't get a chance. That's why I make sure I try to get them in under the comment section of the videos, because I don't do live streams every day. And so I think it's always a good opportunity for you guys to really ask questions. So I hate missing them. So she says, what is your opinion about federal officers not being required to have body cameras, but seeing the push the cameras, please? I think they should. I think they absolutely should. And I think if you're concerned about privacy, then you just blur out the faces of the federal agents. But I think everything needs to be on record. I think the citizens need to push it, that we want to see. And if things go wrong, we need to be able to have a record of what happened, to be honest, to be completely honest. So I think absolutely needs to. I think the problem with our law enforcement just in general is that law enforcement has gotten away with being so secretive for so long that they're now accustomed to the power. Shout out to Scam Likely. He said, to the dust with you. Do we get rid of rap culture? I think that would have a huge impact. Absolutely. I think it does. I think the rap culture has a huge negative impact on Black culture. Absolutely. I would say it's a big part of Black culture, which is a problem. A lot of us are trying to emulate the lifestyle, the sexual deviance, the criminal deviant behavior. If you look at the case right now with like Young Thug and what's going on with that alone, people are mad that the things that allegedly he's done and his group has done. People don't care about that, right? There are people who are just like, no, free him, free him. He's done a lot for the community. Free him. We can't separate, man, reality from entertainment. Same thing with R. Kelly. People just wanted to avoid the fact that he was out here doing all that foolishness he was doing, right? Simply because he was a good singer. Like that absolved him of his wrongdoings, So it's like we have an accountability problem, to be honest, man. We have a strong accountability problem in our community. Shout out to Courtney. What's up, Courtney? Shout out to you, my dear. Back in business. Let me see. Do you think we have a law enforcement problem? Matt Steed says, question, do you think we have a law enforcement people or a society problem? Oh, do we have a law enforcement? I think it's both. We have a police problem and a society problem. The society problem specifically because it just seems like, morality is starting to dissolve quickly. In the United States, right? There's a morality problem. And there's a police problem, definitely. There's always been a police problem. I think the problem is bigger than what we'd like to admit. And I think that's the reason why it's taking so long to fix. Yeah, this is very true. I believe the police brought this on themselves. Yeah, the police brought this on themselves, to be honest. And that's why I believe it's on the police to fix it. Nah, you good, daughter of Yah. You're right. She says she don't want to miss it. Her battery's dying. All right, y'all. We're gonna shut it down. Oh, Matt Steed, I didn't know you weren't subscribed this whole time. You was over here asking all these questions. I'm thinking you're subscribed. Well, welcome to the channel, Matt. Welcome to the channel. Yeah, this is what we do over here. We have genuine conversations. We keep it real, and I give you my professional opinion on things, and I give my personal opinion on certain stuff as well. And I'm not perfect, but my intentions are genuine when it comes to what I'm doing on this channel and providing insight. Translating a lot of these things in regards to policing and the relationship police have with this country, with the citizens, and also the relationship specifically law enforcement has with the Black community, and discussing some tough topics regarding the Black community just in general, and a lot of other things. So So thank you, man. Thank you. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad that I was able to earn your subscribe. Please take a look at all the stuff as well. I'm curious to know. I'm curious to know what you think about the other stuff. And this is a great question too. He said, he said, "What do you think about Brandon Tatum?" I think Brandon Tatum is very interesting. He is very gifted. I will say that. Very talented, very successful in his endeavors and things that he put his mind to. I had an opportunity of interviewing him on the channel. If you want, you probably just got to scroll down a little bit, but you'll see some of the videos. I had a chance to interview him, and we had a great discussion. And I would say he's pro police. I think me and him have two different um, agendas on YouTube, and I think my purpose on YouTube is just different. It's just different. And so check out the interview I did with him, and then let me know what you think. I do check. I check at least about 80% of the comments under the videos, because that's how I learn as well. So yeah, let me get your thoughts on each video. It was pretty dope. We had a dope conversation. We would have did a live stream, but it just didn't work out with both of our schedule because we're in two different time zones. So we did a pre-recorded video. And yeah. So, but yeah, check it out, man. And I want to get your thoughts on it. But yeah, I think he's very, very pro police. I'm not here to be pro police or pro people. I'm really here to be pro justice. And so because of that, me specifically, I want to act more as a consultant between law enforcement and the people. And I identify the areas where the police are wrong, and I identify the areas where the citizens are wrong. And then I like to focus on the solutions. I really like to focus on solutions more so than try to do the who's right, who's wrong thing. The reality is the police are wrong. They can be wrong. There are times when they are absolutely correct. And then I work on explaining why it is that they are correct. On this channel, we talk about facts over feelings, and we really focus on the law. We focus on the logic behind a lot of things, and we keep the feelings out of it, and we'll have, I always like to say, the feelings are the moral argument. So we can make the moral arguments, but I then turn around and we make the legal ones. The legal ones is how these things are being judged, and then we go from there. And so for the most part, we definitely. Oh, shout out to Gail. Gail dropped the link for you, Matt. Check it out. She just dropped it on there. Shout out to Gail. Gail, when we gonna do? I'm gonna bring you over here, Gail. So I know people probably wanting to see us have a little powwow on here. There's a lot of things for us to cover, so I definitely got to get Gail over here. Matt said I don't use my feelings. Well, welcome, Matt. You're in the right place. We'll have moments, Matt. We'll have moments. So you gotta bear with us. We gotta bear with us. We'll have little moments over here, but for the most part, we do a pretty good job. And I can honestly say this, Matt. Everybody that subscribed to my channel, there's some people on that subscribe that appreciate the content, and they don't like the police, right? But they do appreciate the assessment that I give. And so I like that. We have a very diverse group of people in thought on this channel, and a very diverse group of people just region-wise, nation, global, and ethnicity. So it's definitely a very well-rounded channel. I actually think it actually really makes me happy to see that we have people from different countries here, and then also different ethnicities as well. So so welcome, man. You're in a good place. You're free to speak freely and ask the questions. I love the questions. And every now and then we have people come over here. They try to start a little drama. I'll tell them to come up if they're bold enough to come up, and oftentimes they don't. So sometimes they do, and I appreciate those who do come up. Miss Sandra Lee, B1 in the chat. She says, do you think that the Karens should be charged for filing false reports? I think anybody filing false police reports needs to be charged. I've had to charge somebody for filing a false police report on me. They lied on me. and they made a false statement, and then Internal Affairs didn't want to charge him. Man, I went the next day and took out a warrant for their arrest for that. And so I believe anybody making false reports on a police officer needs to be charged. Absolutely. False police report, period, of a crime need to be charged. And there's a charge for it. And they need to be charged. Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely, 100%. 100%. Too many people get away with that. It's crazy. Nathan, why don't you get an office job with FBI? You could be a public relations. FBI needs African Americans. I know. I think I told you guys, but I was in the application process for the FBI, and then my accident happened, and then so I could still do it though. I'm still within age range. I think the cutoff time is 37. I think for the FBI. The problem is the application process takes like 2 years, and I was already like a year in. I was in like stage 3, and I think there's 5 stages of the application process. And I think when my accident happened, honestly, I was so depressed I couldn't really even see myself doing anything. It just took too long. I was taking too long to heal, and I just wasn't confident anymore at the time. So, but yeah. And then here I am, right? So you're right. The FBI does need it. And I think sometimes, though, I like the freedom that I have here because, unfortunately, unfortunately, when you work for an agency, you're limited to this, to what you can talk about. And I like being able to speak my mind freely. Pity going mad arts said, "You gonna do a commentary on Brandon Combs? I'd be interested in your walkthrough. I was leaning toward defending the officer till I get your reply." All right, you got me want to look it up now. All right, that's a special one for you, man. I'm gonna look it up. I didn't hear about it, but I was out of town, so if this is something that happened when I was gone. Brandon Combs said you was leaning on the officer till you saw this. Let me see what this is real quick, just in case I may have seen it. Oh yeah, I have seen this. This is the one where the guy got into the police officer's car. No, honestly, my initial reaction to it is the officer is not justified. Only way the officer will be justified in that shooting is if the suspect had access to, say, the officer's weapon inside the car, right? Inside the patrol car. So in my patrol car, I had my shotgun and my rifle in there, but you would have to know how to actually release it, right? You just can't pull it down. It's secure. But still, say he did know how to, then that person has access to 2 weapons that they may not have had before. He shot him in the car. He wasn't a threat from what I remember looking at. So no, the officer is not justified unless something came up recently that more detail came up. But when I watched the video, I was like, oh no, the officer's done. So yeah, I'll have to double check unless something new that came out. I haven't looked into it in detail, but from looking at the video, he's trying to deal with the guy or whatever. The guy gets in the SUV and then he shoots him. He shoots him up. No, that's not. Because the thing is, where's the threat at? Yeah, there's no justification for that. Matter of fact, I need to add that video into my White People 2 folder. Matter of fact, I need to add that. So for those who don't know, I have a folder called White People 2. And I had to create that folder because I was constantly being challenged with, unfortunately, Some black people every now and then would come up here and say, this doesn't happen to white people. So I created a folder where these things do happen to white people, and that way I can show it to folks. It's like, oh, well, nobody's ever been shot by the police by getting in the police car, right? No white person. I'm like, well, technically that's not true. And here's a guy, right? Recently, the officer shot him. He shouldn't have shot him. No justification for that. So that's good. I'm actually I'm gonna dive into a little bit more now that you brought it up, because I remember looking at it. Let me see. Y'all are funny. Yes, please, you guys, please go and check out Gail. I'm gonna try to Gail. We got to try to put something together. I want to bring you over here. There's a lot for us to talk. Gail's fun, you guys. We're gonna have a good stream. I need to do a stream where we're not talking about all the craziness. Sometimes I just want to have fun. We're gonna have a good stream, but there's some good stuff that we can cover, and then I'm gonna do that emergency planning video for you guys as well. That's also one that's coming up. I'm definitely gonna do that next month. I think it's very important to have that on. You guys, please check out Gail. Please check out Michi as well. For those who I'm sure you're familiar. If you're not familiar, please go and check out Michi X. I know she is getting her channel. I think she's streaming tomorrow. She said too. Let me see. I'm curious to know her thoughts on this topic. It's a good question. Yes, I have. Have you ever had to fight another police officer? Yes, I have. Twice, actually. Twice. Yeah, twice. Yes. I sure have. I'll probably tell you the story one day. I'll tell you all the story. Yeah, twice actually. Yep. Mm-hmm. So you guys, I guess it's always good to end with this too. So for those who are catching that at the back end, I gotta do another stream with Logic. That was shout out to Logic. that was hilarious. Yeah, I've got into it with two officers where one officer I just wanted to just beat the brakes off of him at the job. Oh my God. One officer I wanted to fight. Remember, he lied on me to a supervisor about some foolishness. And I was like, hey man, can you meet me outside real quick? I need to holler at you. Yeah. Sometimes it'd be like that. So you guys, for those who are new to the channel, we do our live streams every Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And and then of course I'll do some random live streams, based on things that come out during the week. I'll try to get on and have the conversation with you guys, and Matt too. If you ever want to come up too, I bring people up to have discussion. If you ever want to come up and ask questions, I do that every now and then, depending on the topic, depending on how people feel in the chat. I'll bring people up and have the conversation. But Matt, yeah, since you're new, Matt, I'm really curious to get your thoughts on some of the content. And so, there's a lot, it's a lot of different stuff. So, common man said Michi's mad at me. She be mad at me too sometimes, Common. It's all right. Michi got a heart of gold. She'll get over it. I think you did piss her off. One stream, she was. Oh my God, that was hilarious. No, I don't mind if you ask crazy questions, man. I think it's good. It's good, and people like to hear it. I think that's the benefit of the channel. I think a lot of times too is everybody brings something different to the conversation. This is a good question right here. So yeah, I reached out. I reached out to Dr. Rashad Ritchie because I wanted to. There are things with Dr. Rashad Ritchie that I disagree with on kind of how he breaks down certain situations involving police encounters. kind of makes everything about race. I'm not with that. But I do believe, not saying that there are incidents where race is a factor, um, but not everything. I don't see color in everything. I'll just look at the facts. Um, but then sometimes things are racist, right? But he's a little excessive. He's definitely a little excessive. So I reached out to him. We did have that interview about policing on his radio station. So for you guys, if you want to check the my library thing, you search for Dr. Sarichi, it'll come up. We had a good conversation there. I want to get on his channel to where when he is reviewing police encounters or police issues, that he has a police officer present to provide insight to the profession. Why? Because he has a very big following, and sometimes he'll say things that really promote propaganda or fear mongering, or he'll say things that are really inaccurate as it relates to the profession. And I see the benefit of being there, even though I know there's a lot of people on this channel that don't like the police. I see value in being able to be there and actually debate with him on certain issues, bring clarity to the conversation. And even again, if the officers are wrong, they're wrong, right? But when they're right, they're right. And if they're right, but you think they're wrong, doesn't mean they're wrong. So it's being able to explain to people what the law is, what the policy is that we follow, what the rules of engagements are, and things like that, and whether or not certain acts of use of force are excessive or not, and blah blah blah. And so, but when you're talking to someone who might already dislike the police, all they see is the police being wrong. And when you talk to someone who might be emotionally invested into the discussion, then they're also going to funnel their response through their emotions and not through their logic. And then, so me being there, I can be a logical representation of the conversation, which is needed because fear mongering is a problem and it impacts the Black community when it comes to police encounters. And I rather people have accurate information. You can dislike the police, but dislike them for the right reasons and not for the wrong reasons, if that makes sense. And that's my philosophy. I don't care if you don't like the police, but make sure it's for the right reasons. Um, I would love to bring him over here. Oh, well, I reached out to him. I've been reaching out to him. And he hasn't set a date yet. So that reminds me, I'm gonna make a note and reach out to him again and ask him to come over here. I've been trying to go on his channel. I might just tell him to come over here. I think that'll be dope, and we can have a discussion. Because honestly, a lot of things we do agree on when it comes to police reform. I don't agree with how he breaks down police encounters. I don't agree with the language that he will use. I think sometimes is divisive. I don't like it, and I think it's counterproductive. And me in a space of trying to repair and heal, when I see people making divisive comments and using inaccurate information or using misinformation, then I want to address it. So if that makes sense. But that's a great question. I'm definitely gonna have to do it. Let me see. Petty said he's the one. He's the one whose video I sent you. I think the reason he rubs me the wrong way. He reminds me of Al Sharpton when he talks. Even when I'm in agreement with him, I feel like it's wrong. Yeah, he has a very strong kind of preacher voice. So I can see that. But he's sharp. He's intelligent. But you know how that goes. Um, Diesel TV. He said, "We ain't gonna have me on." Diesel TV. Do I remember Diesel TV? Now I gotta remember who Diesel TV. Who? I don't look up your channel real quick. I can't keep up with all the names, you guys. But Diesel said, "We ain't gonna have me on, brother." Let me see. Oh, yeah. Bro, hit me up on the IG. Diesel, hit me up on the IG and let's set something up. We can set something up ASAP. Yeah, I remember now. I remember. I just had to look up your channel real quick. Yeah, bro, let's set something up ASAP. We can do something. Definitely be we definitely do an interview over here, bring you on the channel. I have some interviews coming up. We have a couple good ones coming up. You guys, I'm actually excited for this next one. Got a law professor I'm interviewing over here. So try to do it as a live. If not, we'll do it as a pre-record. And then so we can yeah. Diesel, hit me up, bro. And then we'll set something up. Absolutely. I think it's definitely time. Definitely time for that. So with that being said, you guys, listen, thank you so much, everyone, tonight. Thank you so much for all of your support. This was an amazing stream. Shout out to those who new to the channel, decided to subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Listen, this is gonna be a long journey, so hang in there. Shout out to all the members of the channel. I really appreciate you guys. Your support goes a long way. Our members are growing. So if you see value in this channel, want to be a part of the journey, please become a member and help with the cause. We are working really hard to just bring some truth to the conversation, bring genuine perspective. I bring professionals on this channel to have the conversation. You see one right here, Diesel TV, another professional. I'll be bringing them up on the channel as well. And, we bring you guys some real information, man, and none of that BS, none of that pandering. We keep it real, and we have genuine discussions and dialogue about well-needed stuff. So finally some truth in the space, man, because there's a whole lot of people here just here to make money. And I don't believe in that philosophy. I don't believe in profit over people. Never believed in that, and so that's why there's only few of us, right? So there's only few. So great questions tonight, you guys. Thank you so much, everyone, for the support. Those who donated tonight, truly a blessing. Truly a blessing. I really appreciate it. You guys motivate me so much. The channel is also growing. Please help, share the channel. You guys, share the channel. I've been meeting a lot of people, met a lot of people overseas this last trip, and shared the channel with them. They're really excited about what we're doing over here. And so that's also a big plus when people from different places of the country see value in what you're doing too. So that also makes me feel good. So we're growing, man. We're growing definitely brick by brick, but we getting there. Again, thank you so much. Thank you to all my moderators. Shout out to Gail, always holding it down. I really appreciate it, my dear. And what else? I think that's it. So until next time, you guys, next Wednesday, same time, something comes up before then, I'm gonna jump on. And we'll go from there. So all right, you guys, with that being said, let these truths find you where the lies have left you. Good night. God bless.